It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Thursday morning. Game 2 in the Western Conference Finals is in the books, and somewhat predictably, the Oklahoma City Thunder won, 122-113. They took the lead in the second quarter. It was tied after one. They took the lead in the second quarter, and it was tight. They'd open up a double-digit lead to get to 10 or 11, and the Spurs come roaring right back and cut it to 3 or 5. But the Thunder eventually win it by the 122-113 margin. There were a lot of differences between Game 1 and 2. There were a few similarities. One similarity is Victor Wembanyama was very good. The difference was, whereas he was not only very good, he was great in Game 1. He was spectacular. He was merely very good. 21 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks. That's nothing to sneeze at. Now, it's not 40 and 20. It's not 41 points, 24 boards. By controlling him a little bit, the Thunder gave themselves a chance to win. He had to go off for the Spurs to win Game 1 in overtime. This was different. They didn't try to get cute and put guards on him. They went back to big men. And Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren took their turns, and they both did well. Hartenstein's 13 rebounds, I think that was a really big deal in this game. The rebounds, San Antonio won 45-41, but it was close enough. And Hartenstein led the way with 13. Nobody else had more than McCain's 6. So you gotta give it up to Isaiah. And Chet Holmgren finished with 13 points and 4 boards. But I think the real key is that the paint points for Wembanyama went way down. He had 3. He had a couple of putbacks off his own misses that were spectacular. One to tip in and one to follow dunk. And they were really good. But he was crushing it. He had 10 buckets in the paint in Game 1. So it was a little more reasonable here. And I think that was a major advantage for Oklahoma City. The play of those bigs and the fact they just put bigs on Wemby and they didn't get cute and try to create mismatches on the perimeter with taller guys that the threes have problems shooting over. Let Wemby go nuts, make the other guys beat us. But he was too good. So Game 2 was a different deal, and I thought that was a big factor. Another big factor is that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played like an MVP. He had a terrible Game 1, but he's really good in Game 2. 30 points. He did it on 50% shooting, 12 of 24. Interestingly enough, he did not make a three-pointer in the game on his way to 30 points. He had 6 of them at the line. There's been a lot of talk about how many free throws he shoots, but 6 is a reasonable number. It's, nothing outrageous about 6 free throws. So just a really solid game for, say, Gilgeous-Alexander. After going 7 for 23 in the first game, he was 12 of 24 in the second. And the funny thing is, it's 1-1, and he hasn't gotten hot from 3 yet. At some point, he's going to get it going. He's 2 of 10. He was 0 for 3 in this game. He was 2 for 7 in the first one. He's not a great three-point shooter. He only shot 40% from 3 once, and that was back in 2020, 2021. But he is a solid 37 or 38% shooter the last couple of years. So at some point, he's not 2 of 10 guy either. So at some point, he's going to get back on track, and he's going to have a game shooting it. And so if he has that in one of these games in San Antonio and they split and the series is 2-2 going back to Oklahoma City for Game 5, I'm not going to be surprised. And realistically, I don't think you are either, because you probably watch about as much NBA basketball, especially playoff basketball, as I do. And it feels like we've seen this movie before. They split 2 in Oklahoma. I won't be surprised if they split 2 in Texas. Now, one thing to watch here in this series going forward is Caruso, because he was great in Game 1, and he wasn't as awesome in Game 2, but he was still really good. He had a smaller role, took fewer shots, more guys had it going. They were getting the bigs more touches and all that. So he had 17 points. He didn't have 30, but he was efficient. 5 of 7 shooting the ball, 3 of 4 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line. Super efficient from Alex Caruso again. And the overall numbers aren't as big and aren't as gaudy, but, man, his impact on the game with the 17 points, 5 assists, 0 turnovers. 0. So impressed with Caruso again. But real balance from Oklahoma City. You know, their whole deal is that they've got depth. They got a lot of guys they can throw at you. Yeah, they had 7 guys in double figures. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way, and Caruso had 17. But then you had Hartenstein in doubles, Holmgren in double figures, Jalen Williams in double figures, Casey Wallace, Jared McLean, and A.J. Mitchell. So a lot of guys in double figures. And that depth is going to be important because just as we saw in the regular season, when there were so many players down, it was a bad regular season. There were just so many stars missing so many games. Now, I will say we've got the stars. SGA and Wembanyama, who along with the Joker in Denver are the 3 best players in the league right now. They're playing. But behind them, I mean, guys are going down left and right. We still haven't seen De'Aaron Fox in this, the former Sacramento King, now in San Antonio. We have not seen him. He hasn't dressed for either one of these games, hasn't played a minute. And he was joined on the sideline because Dylan Harper got hurt and left the game. So now the Thunder are down 2 guys. Now, to be fair, the Spurs are down 2 guys. To be fair, the Thunder are also down guys. Jalen Williams limped off. He had just 4 points in 7 minutes. Looked like his left hamstring, he was reaching back for it and had the towel, which I suppose had a heating pad or something in it. I don't know. But he was limping off, and we didn't see him again. He only played 7 minutes the whole game. And then late in the game, A.J. Mitchell went down. It looked like some kind of groin injury, the way he was reaching, maybe quad. But either way, bad. Again, soft tissue, legs. And this goes back to Locke's theory that there's so much running, so much jumping, so much cutting, so many explosive movements, changing directions. The guys are going to break down. And guys are playing really hard right now. I mean, guys are flying all over the place, diving on the court, banging into each other. I mean, these teams, they know they got to bring their best to win this. That, you come out and you play a B-plus game, it might get you beat. It might get you beat. So they're the maximum level of effort, and what do you know? Now we've got 3, depending on Mitchell, maybe 4 guys out. We'll see if they stay out. We'll see if anyone can come back for game 3. But it doesn't look good. You want to see teams at full strength really going at it, and guys are falling left and right. We're down 2 players on each team. Not a good trend. And again, we always look for things in the playoffs and think, how does this apply to the Jazz? I think the people who are, wailing, crying, gnashing of teeth, well, if they draft Boozer, well, where will he fit? How will Filipowski play? Man, guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to miss games. You're going to have depth. I bet a lot of those problems solve themselves. So just Austin Ainge and his whole team, Danny Ainge, Jay-Z, those guys have to get together, just get the best players. And if the Jazz have too many good players, that's a great problem to have. I honestly don't believe they're going to have it. But if they do, it's a great problem to have. Outstanding. Make a midseason trade. Lighten your bench if you have to. Do something at the trade deadline. Go get some more draft picks. Do something. I just don't think it's going to be a problem. And I think these injuries are going to keep happening. I think there's a lot to the pace of play and how much these guys play. And maybe it goes back to how much they play as teenagers. They get in these AAU tournaments and are playing so many games in so many weeks. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the way the style of the game has changed. But for whatever reason, this is no longer a fluke and a coincidence. This is how things work. Guys get hurt, and you better have the next wave of guys ready to step in. So I wouldn't worry too much about the depth. I really wouldn't. So now we'll see where it goes from here. Game 3 coming up Friday night. I'm intrigued by it. Switches back to the East, Game 2 tonight. And I was pretty confident in Oklahoma City at home. You just don't see teams get down 0-2 at home very often. Now, Cleveland on the road, this could be a different deal. It'll be interesting to see what happens and how Mitchell and Harden respond. And I really like Cleveland's bigs. They don't always impose their will on the game. And maybe they're not given a chance. Maybe the guards are too ball dominant. They need to figure that out. But they got talented bigs. Cleveland's, they're not built like a champion, I don't think. I don't think they have the guy at the top. They're one of the top 10 players in the league, and they usually need one of the top 5. And I think that's why the winner of the San Antonio-Oklahoma City series is going to have a top 3 player in the league. And I think that's why they're going to win when they get to the finals. Whoever emerges in the conference finals should win in the NBA finals. But having said all that, Cleveland still has, they got a good team. They got some balance there. So I'm intrigued to see what happens in Game 2 tonight. Other stuff that happened in the NHL playoffs. PK Saban on ESPN was saying that the Knights had a chance against the Avalanche. I really didn't believe it. Sure enough, Vegas up 2-0 after 2 periods, up 3-zip early in the third, and they hold on to win 4-2 with an empty netter to put the game away. So they win Game 1 in Colorado. We've seen crazier things happen, to be sure. So Colorado, the 1 seed in the entire thing, best record in the regular season, but they dropped Game 1 at home to Vegas. We'll see where this goes. See where this goes from here. And my Padres can't hit again. Shutout. Shohei Ohtani, 5 shutout innings, and he homered. He doesn't usually hit when he pitches, but they decided, well, we're giving you a few games off. We'll give you a shot in San Diego. And sure enough, he hits a homer and then throws 5 shutout innings, and Dodgers win 4-0. Man, the Cubbies, they were hot, but they've lost 5 in a row now. The Brewers sweep the Cubbies. The Brewers have a 1.5 game lead over the Cubbies and the Cardinals in the Central Division. That looks crazy, man. That division is absolutely bonkers. And I suppose it's probably just going to stay that way. They got pretty good teams. They play each other so much, I don't know if they can all finish with any records, but we're 49 games in, and they all got winning records right now. Pittsburgh's in last place at 25-24, and they get a plus 22 run differential, so maybe they can pull it off. All right, DJ and PK. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, there's a poll out in The Athletic. Where do people want to play in the NBA? Where do they not want to play? What's the number 1 team they don't want to go to? What are they saying about Utah? What are they saying about the Jazz? It's not great, but it's not as bad as you think it is. Kind of feels like progress is being made, And you're never going to be in a place where everybody loves you. That's not going to happen. We'll get to that next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, you and Dennis Lindsley pledged your undying devotion to one cause, changing the view of Utah, the Wasatch Front, and Salt Lake City throughout the NBA. And Dennis now works elsewhere, but you're making progress.
Yeah, absolutely. He joked about that he and I were going to change the perception of the Jazz because it had been negative, obviously. People had come out and scoffed at it, and I knew nothing. Well, it's not like I didn't know anything about Salt Lake City and Utah. I had been here a time or two, very briefly, if not just driving through on my way to Jackson Hole before I actually got the job with the Tribune and moved here. But then when I got here, you talk about the sleeping giant. I always thought University of Utah football was a sleeping giant because I saw BYU do what they did, and I can remember going back. I can remember literally asking Bruce Woodbury, the longtime sports information director, what's going on here? Why isn't this program better? It should be better. And then it did get better, and look at it now. I was right. And so many people from all walks of life came here and played football here and then stayed in the community. I see them out occasionally, see them at the gym or wherever. And they're fine here. They thrive here. They're not just fine, they thrive here. And why couldn't that be at the professional level? And I think little by little, or big by big, little by big, whatever, it has been chipped away. And this is sort of anecdotal.
It's anecdotal, and how the question is framed
something.
Matters, but that's what I say. There is some truth buried amongst a lot of stuff here. The Athletic ran a player poll, and there were lots of topics. It was a varied thing. But one of the questions in there is, what's the team you least want to be traded to? Oh, but no. The runaway winner. Turns out LeBron James has the pulse of the NBA players. He made a comment about not wanting to go to Memphis. 35.8% of the vote, Memphis by a wide margin. And they're in the middle of a rebuild, and the city's got issues, and nobody wants to go there. Washington was second at 11.7. Sacramento third at 10.8. New Orleans at 6.7. And then Brooklyn and Utah at 5. Largely, players don't want to go play for bad teams. When I look at those 6, what do they have in common? Well, they've been losing. That's what players seem to want to avoid. And we want players who want to be about winning. So, okay, that's good. And the next group of teams, Charlotte and Portland. Now, what I found interesting, Brooklyn got 5% of the vote. New York got 3.3%. And the Lakers got 1.7%. So that's 10% of the vote for New York and LA teams? I'm a little surprised the Clippers are the one who wasn't on the list.
Yeah, but some people that, that involves way more complications.
It does.
If you have a game in the Garden or whatever they're calling the Brooklyn.
So hard to get there and move around. There's so many people.
Yeah.
And let's face it, some people just aren't big city people.
Right.
Not everybody grows up in the big city and wants to be in the big city, and there's the two biggest cities. So I get all of that. Now, I do think this is a little squishy because players don't usually have just one place they don't want to go. If you told a player they're going to have 3, they're going to have 5, they're going to have 8,
this
whatever.
isn't a scientific poll.
Exactly.
We understand that.
But the fact that Utah is now tied for 5th when there's a time that I think we all are pretty sure they would have been 1st or 2nd.
Yeah, it was the butt of jokes.
Yeah.
It was a mock. It was okay. It was fashionable to mock this area. The Carlos Boozer interview in Miami. Well, you're glad, I forget what it was, and the setup to it, well, good thing you're out of there. And he said, no, it's not that bad. Well, because he's been here. He's been in the community. And he knows what the community's about. And now he knows both. This was a prior administration, but now he knows this administration.
Yeah.
And look at it. The owner is willing to spend money, building a whole basically bought them all. And
yeah, basically. And he did. Yeah, he bought the Southtown Mall and he's redeveloping it.
Yes. And it's 2 feet off the freeway.
Hockey facility, basketball facility, and now they're partnering with Intermountain Health, and IHC's putting in a big old clinic in there.
Yeah.
Which malls need to be redesigned because so many people shop online now. So
right. Yes.
So he's
ever since Kmart went away, that's what I do.
That's it, man. Once you couldn't walk down there and get those cocktail dresses.
Right. I'd get one a year. Whatever was in style, I'd get her one every year. And it worked, let me tell you. So you got all those things. You've got, and I think Ainge carries a name throughout the NBA. He's still involved. His son has the same name. To an extent, is a chip off the old block, as they say. I think he lives and breathes basketball and has a great sense about what to do basketball-wise. And so that the Ainge name is going to be attached for the Jazz probably for another 15, 20 years, and who knows what happens after that. So everything is pointing in a positive direction. And you got a guy like you got young guys. You got young African-Americans who clearly like it. Keontae George, you want me to go back and represent the team? I'm there. Dress up, looking good, looking sharp, do interviews, presenting it well. Mm-hmm. He's well-spoken, and he's a good player. He's made a dramatic level of improvement. So obviously that speaks to the young man being willing to put the time in. But I think it also speaks to the support staff allowing him and helping him to get better. And so I think that we're to the point in my mind, as much as it can be debunked, it has been debunked.
And it'll still come down to a player-by-player decision. We may still hear it again, but we may not.
But the player...
Nice as hell. I ain't going to
Yeah,
hold you.
I was going to bring that up, Yak. I was just waiting for him to finish. There are other players. It could be a formal setting, right? When you choose a player to represent the organization at a high-profile TV event, that's one thing. It's another thing when a player, completely unprompted, is driving around town and puts something up on social media.
Nice as hell. I ain't going to hold you. Nice.
That's Colin Sexton.
Thank you, Colin Sexton.
And, he had a way of expressing himself, or has a way, and he's a little different, and that's fine.
But to your point has always been, let's not lump all the players in the league. We're talking 450 players who are coming from all over the place with all kinds of different experiences.
Right.
All over the country, all over the continent, all over the world.
Well, with foreign players, yeah.
Right. Yeah, well.
But the big knock was the young black player couldn't enjoy here.
Right.
No. I always thought that was a racist assumption that you're going to assign a belief to somebody that you've never met, and he's not going to like it here. Bull crap. Maybe some don't.
And that's why I say
you can go anywhere and some don't.
It'll be, well, and this poll shows that. I mean, this poll shows that right there. Just going to NBA players themselves, there's 13 different teams getting votes, almost half the league. And a bunch of them all are the small markets that to one degree or another take this kind of hit. The Indianas, the Milwaukees, the Utahs, and Portlands. You know, it's cold, it's rainy, it's snowy, it's not glamorous, it's not, and they're all on the list. But Brooklyn, New York, L.A., New Orleans, Washington, D.C. are on the list too.
The young African-American who's in the position to play NBA ball has a level of education, we're speaking generally, but has a level of education that he and his folks, whoever they may be, his handlers, literally maybe his folks, has been involved with all sorts of different people, because usually, and most of them are one and done, but they've been identified as a professional prospect 15, maybe 16, certainly by 17, and he's had varied experiences of playing around the country
for all the national teams,
interacting with all sorts of people. He has a level of experience that can't be bought in the classroom. Then he goes to college for a year, and he's experiencing all sorts of people. So he's quite comfortable dealing with all sorts of people.
The level of sophistication, and we can gnash our teeth all we want about lost childhoods and AAU professionalizes stuff early on and 14-year-olds are getting paid or whatever. And I get it. There's a downside to all of that. But one of the other things that's happening is there is a level of sophistication to these players.
That's what I'm talking about.
And this generation, it is different now to go into a locker room and talk to a 21-year-old than it was to go into a locker room and talk to a 21-year-old 21 years ago. It is different. And they're looking at things differently. They're thinking differently. Honestly, my kids and their friends talk about stuff differently than I did at that age with my peers. Partly it's just a generational thing. Times always change. Attitudes always change. And so, and maybe it's because they have phones and they're getting news because they got internet on their phone, and they're seeing stuff in the world that we just didn't see. We didn't sit down and watch the evening news, and there's nowhere else to get it at our age.
The 20-year-old of today is quite comfortable on his feet.
Yeah.
If you're that level of talent.
Well, and to go back to the Boozer story, because it stands out, and it's something we talked about on the show when we got the audio and we played it. Yuck, might even be able to dig it up somewhere. It might be in the archive somewhere still. Is that you think about who Carlos Boozer was when he did that interview. To your point, he grew up in Alaska, right? So that's different. That's extreme. That's unusual. He goes to Duke. Okay, living in the South is different. Then he goes to the upper Midwest. He's in Cleveland. He comes to Utah. He leaves and goes to Chicago, a megacity, for a guy who grew up in a state that doesn't have many people, right? Now he's on the phone either late in his career or after his career. Maybe he was in Chicago at the time. And he's in Miami, which is way different than North Carolina or Utah or Cleveland or Alaska. I mean, that guy can legitimately compare in a way most people can't. I've lived all over the place.
Yeah.
I can compare these places. I've lived it.
Right.
Now, his experience isn't necessarily going to be everybody's experience. I mean, he's a celebrity and he's a multimillionaire, and somebody else is not a celebrity and not a multimillionaire.
Yeah, but that's why you've got kids from Florida choosing to come play ball at Utah.
Boy, NIL is just accelerating this phenomenon as far as, we were talking spring football. Iowa State's got a kid, and he's on his fourth school in 6 years. He's been all over the place.
And BYU just got a commitment from a defensive back from New Jersey.
What?
Yeah.
that wouldn't happen 30 years ago.
Right. And so that young man, and he's still in high school, so he's a young man.
So we'd say all this stuff.
He's going to be able to converse with people.
But we say all this in the next player because everybody's going to have a different situation when they want to go. The number's not 0. It's still 5%.
Well, it's never going to be 0.
Right.
We understand that.
But the Lakers aren't at 0 either. That was surprising. Do they not want to? They don't want to deal with L.A., or they're not going to get them shots because Doncic takes too many? I always wonder how much of this is because they say they don't want to go to this team. Well, the team is currently in a certain. I mean, Memphis.
Well, these are guys right now.
Right. Memphis is rebuilding now. You know, Memphis was a winning organization 4 or 5 years ago.
What I'm confident in saying, if a player does not want to be here, it's not because this is just like the one guy from San Diego walking in Provo is like walking in Alabama in the 50s.
That's not what...
The police are not going to take out a hose. There's going to be exceptions and there's going to be issues. It's not issue-free. And we're never going to be issue-free in the rest of the history of the world. We're speaking on a broad, general level.
So if a player doesn't want to come for whatever reason, state of the organization, shots, the city, whatever it is, the point now is looking at these numbers. Okay, that player doesn't want to, but the next player will, or the player after that will. But it does suck that back-to-back it was Hayward and Mitchell leaving. Not that long on the heels of Boozer and D. Will leaving. Now, the thing is, when Carlos came back and when he first started doing appearances here, and I always find it weird, the athletes who are really successful and really aggressive, like how low-key and mellow they can be off the court. For whatever reason, I got my assumptions, and that just stuns me. And I've seen that multiple sports, multiple ages. I don't know. I just expect a little more of the Jersey attitude you always talk about all the way through life. So, look, he could not wait to explain, like, hey, I left for basketball reasons. Like, we were going to win. The Lakers were bigger and better. And they were maxed out. And he talked to Greg Miller, and they're over the luxury tax. They're maxed out. They're not going to spend anymore. Like, big guys are expensive. We're not going to get one. If I'm going to win, I got to go somewhere else. He just could not wait to explain. This is a basketball decision. And the whole time I was thinking, I was like, well, yeah, I know you don't know this, but we got the clip from Miami and we played it. I already have a pretty good idea. But he was worried that was the misconception. Like, he was just coming in filled with, fear and loathing and
animosity towards the
animosity and disgust. And no, this is basketball. And I'm like, yeah, if you wanted to go off, you would have gone off on the radio in Miami when you figured there are no repercussions. You could have agreed with a guy, leading question, Your Honor.
Right.
And he didn't.
No.
So, but I do think that it's changed, and partly it's just because things always change, and partly it's because people have tried to change it. Both the Millers and Ryan Smith tried to change things and recognized, hey, there's hurdles here. There's stuff here, it's hard. We had Joe Ingles on, and you asked him, what do you think? Why? And he said, well, I hear my teammates' stories, and it gives just a certain level of empathy because I know these guys, and I see their faces when they're talking. I'm like, well, this is real. It's not something Joe faced.
Right.
He's a white guy.
That's going to be out there. Yeah. It's always going to be out there. I've got friends.
So partly it's happened just because everything evolves over time. Everything's different than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, wherever you go. There's partly that, but partly it's been intentional change that both the Millers and the Smiths are like, hey, we got to change some stuff here. And some things are small and some things are big. So it's a combination of, and I do think it goes back to Joe's conversation, and I think when I've heard Ryan Smith talk, it goes back to something you always said. Like, there's problems, but if you really want to change it, it's hard at a societal level to get on social media or get behind a podium and scream at somebody and lecture somebody.
Right.
Form a bond.
Right.
Work with somebody and find out what their hopes and dreams are and what their goals are and what they're willing to do and what their hurdles are.
And then it melts away.
Yeah. And you got a guy that you talk to. I don't know how often you text with him because you text with a lot of people all the time. You're watching games at least 6 nights a week, and you're texting with people while you do. But you talk to him once in a while. But he comes on the show and you can hear the emotion. Like, you guys don't talk all the time, but you got a bond that goes back to sitting at a desk in a building that doesn't exist anymore 35 years ago.
Right.
But that's because you got to know each other. Forget the cliches and forget the posturing and forget the politics. Just, but that goes back to what somebody said a long time ago, famously, the content of the character. You know the content of his character.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. And then if you don't like that person, it may be because something just rubs you wrong. But I believe you end up liking most people that you get to know. Not everyone. I'm not sitting here saying I love everyone. I don't. There's a few people. But most people that I get to know, they're pretty good people. And I do think the bottom line here is that if a player doesn't want to be here, it's not going to be for basketball reasons, and community reasons just are through the roof, and he's going to be miserable. And they can't keep everyone anyway. Yeah. So you can't get everyone you want. But I think the Millers did a fine job, and I think the new administration and ownership is taking the ball, so to speak, and running with it and continuing to chip away.
5%. It was surprising to see that number. But it also looks like this generation of players, man, a lot of this seems to ride on basketball. Not exclusively.
Which probably it should be because it's your job and that's what you're here for.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, the spring football tour takes us to Iowa State. That's next. Stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life's sleep.
Thumbtack presents Uncertainty Strikes. I was surrounded. The aisle and the options were closing in. There were paint rollers, satin and matte finish, angle brushes, and natural bristles. There were too many choices. What if I never got my living room painted? What if I couldn't figure out what type of paint to use? What if I just used Thumbtack? I can hire a top-rated pro that knows everything about interior paint, easily compare prices, and read reviews. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
DJ and PK, we're joined by Alec Busse. He covers Iowa State for Cyclone Alert and 24/7 Sports. Alec, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. Good morning, Salt Lake.
So you go out to practice to watch this new coach. Most of the best impressive players followed the old coach to Penn State. Do you know anybody? Is this all brand new? Or guys just shaking hands and introducing themselves?
Pretty much. No, I don't know anyone on the team. I really don't know anything about them, if we're being honest. I probably know more than the average person if we're really trying to be truthful about everything. But no, it's been a huge roster turnover for Jimmy Rogers and Iowa State football. My kind of going line is someone's going to ask me on my morning radio show here in Des Moines a question about some position or some player on the team, and my response is going to be, I don't know. I apologize, but I don't know. I think I'm going to need until like the end of September or maybe to the middle of October to really get a good grasp on what this team is. But I think that kind of creates some fun, right? Like it's going to be a learning process for Iowa State fans. It's going to be a learning process for those of us who cover the Iowa State football program. And it's something I'm looking forward to being able to do throughout the summer. And then, of course, as we get to training camp and in the early parts of the season.
Well, Rogers had 16 starters in the portal leave him. I mean, or enter their name anyway. It was most in the nation. I guess you start with the quarterback. Obviously, Rocco was an institution there, and he goes to Penn State. But you got the kid, Rayner, from Arkansas State, right? And he's got some impressive stats, and he's got some good experience. So at least from that standpoint, it looks like it's a decent starting point.
Yeah, so I think the Rocco Beck departure was tough for Iowa State to handle. It was pretty clear, I think, that he probably was going to try and follow Matt Campbell to Penn State. And then Jalen Rayner's kind of an interesting story as he comes to Iowa State. Cyclone fans know of him more than they would most Group of 5 quarterbacks or Group of 6 quarterbacks now because they played him the last 2 years. Arkansas State came to Ames in 2024. Cyclones went down to Jonesboro and played the Red Wolves in 2025. Rayner had a better game in 2025, but he's been a 3 or 4 year starter down at Arkansas State, someone who has thrown for around 3,000 or more than 3,000 yards multiple times in his career, has kind of seen his interception numbers climb at various points, but so have his touchdown numbers. Good athlete, not someone who has the greatest size, but I think Iowa State will be able to rely on his athleticism, his ability to play make with his legs within their offense, and they're going to try and run the ball a lot this year. I think that's something that their offensive coordinator, Tyler Roll, takes a ton of pride in. If you look at some of his previous stops and the success that his called offenses have had. So Raiders an interesting fit. I don't think he is, going to come in with the heralded name value that Oklahoma State is getting with Drew Messamaker coming from the Group of 5 level into the Big 12. But yeah. I don't think that Rayner is going to be the worst quarterback situation in the conference either.
They also have a transfer from Oklahoma State, right? Zane Flores, and he appears bigger, but is he not as good a runner? Is that the difference between the two?
Yeah, Zane Flores. He started, I think it was 7 games this past season for Oklahoma State. I mean, that was a disaster of a situation, to put it politely, I guess you could say. I think Flores is probably going to be their QB2. They haven't formally named Rayner the starting quarterback for this fall, but I would be really surprised if it's not Rayner. Flores, I think, was probably thrown into a position down in Stillwater to play and start before he was probably ready, with a program that was not set up to win, that ended up being in transition. He's got a big arm, throws a really pretty football, but still kind of coming along in his development. And I think his rushing ability is certainly one of those traits that he's still kind of flashing in a little bit, but still trying to find that consistency in as well.
I saw a number that 49 transfers are coming into the program. I don't know if that's accurate as we speak, but that's what I saw. And 15 of them were from Washington State. So you've got to brush up on your Cougar football. Iowa State becoming Washington State East to an extent, and those guys were with Rodgers. So from that perspective, too, there's so much newness, but those guys have a level of familiarity with Rodgers, so that ought to help a bit.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys are on the defensive side of the football, and I think that's where you would expect Iowa State, of its three phases, to kind of be at its strongest entering the season. Their defense is pretty good last year at Washington State. Rodgers is a former defensive coordinator, kind of cut his teeth in the FCS level at South Dakota State. His coordinator, Jesse Bobbitt, has been with him for a while on the defensive side. Bobbitt actually took over and was the coordinator, or the interim head coach for Washington State in their bowl game. But, yeah, they bring a lot of guys over on the defensive side from Washington State, particularly on the defensive line. Max Balloon, Bryson Lamb are two guys I expect to contribute at a pretty high level on the interior. Isaac Terrell is someone who was a really productive edge rusher at Washington State in a breakout season a year ago. And then there's a couple of defensive backs as well who come over from Pullman. I think you will see most of the production from the Washington State transfers be on the defensive side, contrary to the opposite side of the ball offensively, where they just brought a couple of receivers over. I just don't think that they have the depth of snaps or the depth of experience on the offensive side with the Washington State transfers as they do the defensive side of the ball.
So at running back, I can already feel the drama, and maybe you'll drop your first I don't know of the interview right here. I appreciate your honesty with that off the top. So Jaden Jackson in the spring showcase breaks off a 60-yard run immediately. Oh, maybe this is the running back, except he just left the program a couple of weeks after that spring showcase. So he's gone, and they brought in a guy from Oregon State, which I guess Washington State played him twice, so I guess you can pretty well scout him. Except he can't practice. He's on a scooter, and they don't see what the injury is. So what is happening at running back? What does that depth chart look like? Or you just got a bunch of names in a hat, and that has to be sorted out?
Yeah, so some recent developments there. So Jaden Jackson does depart the team. I wasn't expecting him to be a contributor for Iowa State this fall at running back. He didn't play at all during his redshirt freshman season in 2025. Jimmy Rogers kind of talked about after the spring showcase that they needed to see more from him. It just sounded like there were some frustrations with him meeting the demands of what the coaching staff asked of the players in various areas. So Jackson leaves the program. So that hurts some of their depth at that position, of course. And then yesterday they hosted, they landed, I should say, Tulane transfer Arnold Barnes, a tailback who comes in from the American Conference. Has never been ultra productive in his career. 2024 was his best season. He rushed for over 400 yards that season for the Green Wave and had all 6 of his career touchdowns. I think last season he ran for about 270 or 280 yards, I think it was. He'll give them some depth around Cam Pettaway and Aiden Flora. Pettaway is probably the guy who I would expect to be at the top of the list for Iowa State this fall. He was the MAC Freshman of the Year this past season, but he actually had more kick return yards. I think that was about 390 to 400. They needed rushing yards, which was closer to 360 or 370. Pettaway's a speedy kid, has good contact balance. Flora's a name that Iowa State fans, I think, are pretty excited about. He was retained from the old coaching staff. He had 2 really long punt returns for Iowa State last year. Both set up scoring opportunities. One came in week 1 of the season as Iowa State moved to 2-0 with a blowout win over South Dakota. And then another one was a clutch punt return in Iowa State's road win over TCU, which kind of gave them some momentum late in the season as they closed an extended losing streak there. But then Salahadin Allah, who you mentioned, was on the scooter in the spring showcase, spring scrimmage. He's going to miss the entire season. He has a torn right Achilles. And I think that's really what led to Iowa State deciding that they needed to go add some depth and bring in Arnold Barnes. But because before they added Barnes, they had just about 830 college rushing yards on their roster, and none of those were as a power conference back. Or I shouldn't say none of those. Very few of those were as a power conference back. So it's a position group that doesn't have a lot of experience. It doesn't have a lot of proven production, but I think it's an important position group for this Iowa State offense because, like I said, I think Tyler Roll, the offensive coordinator, wants to run the football quite a bit.
Well, they want to run the football. You got to have a good offensive line, and they lost a couple of guys to transfers. Black to Nebraska. I think Bird to Penn State followed Campbell over there, obviously, and they brought in 10 new linemen. That's a lot. How do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, anytime you have to bring in that many offensive linemen to the portal, it's natural to have questions there. And I think the staff is still kind of trying to figure out what their best combination of five guys is across our offensive line right now. One thing that I was really, really impressed with what the staff did in their roster building in January was a scholarship balance across the offensive line. So they have 15 total offensive linemen that are classified as a senior, junior, or sophomore, but they're all redshirt players. So they have 15 total redshirt seniors, juniors, sophomores combined. So that's an experienced group in terms of just college years in a college program or snaps in general. I have some questions just about like power conference production, how some of that translates. They do have a transfer from Oklahoma, Jake Taylor, who I think will start at one of the tackle positions. They've got some guys coming in who I think would have started this upcoming season at their previous stop or were previous starters. So it's a group that I think they're still trying to have gel. I think it's a group that they also feel like right now they can play up to 8 or 9 guys. I think naturally you want to dwindle that down closer to 7 or 8 and rotate those guys if you have to, but still kind of feel like you've got clear identifiable positions for each of those players while still also kind of cross-training them. You know, offensive line is a complicated position to kind of manage and sift through as well.
That brings us to wide receiver. Is Cody Jackson the top dog there? I am impressed. This will be his 4th school in 6 years. I'm not clear looking at it why he's getting a 6th year. But from Oklahoma to Houston to Tarleton State to Iowa State, the well-traveled Cody Jackson, or is there somebody else they're really looking to there?
Yeah, he's one of the more interesting guys on the entire roster to me. So you mentioned his previous stops. He was never really productive when he was playing in the Big 12 previously, despite being a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. Oklahoma didn't really produce there. Houston did not produce in his 2 seasons with the Cougars. Dropped down to the FCS level, was really good down there, and he's going to come back up to the Big 12 and see if he can produce up here for maybe a third time as a charm. He's not one that I'm banking on contributing at a high level. I think Evan Boyd, the Michigan State transfer, is one that I could see making an impact. I also think that Carter Paps, a transfer from Washington State, is one guy on the offensive side who comes over from Wazoo that I could see make an impact for Iowa State. Receivers, a unique position for this staff. During the spring scrimmage, they were rotating guys through first, second, and third string, trying to find the right fit for a lot of different guys, getting them in different positions, be it the X, Y, or the Z. And then one name that you guys may have had some familiarity with is Dominic Overby. He's from that Salt Lake area, tall kid, long kid, has really good speed. He had some nice flashes last year, especially as a deep ball threat on those go balls down the sideline. I'm intrigued to see what his next step could be for Iowa State because I think he has some of the physical tools and he had some nice flashes last year, but now that he's set to enter his 3rd year of college in 2026, I'm intrigued to see if he's able to kind of put more of that together with an opportunity to climb the depth chart under a new coaching staff.
Micah Harper, we're also familiar with. I think he transferred in from Montana by way of BYU. He going to play?
Yeah, and I think his role probably was set to increase throughout the spring because Iowa State lost what, in my opinion, was their biggest addition via the transfer portal on defense, and Braden Alls. Alls was coming in from Toledo. I think he has about 9 career interceptions. Cyclones landed him in the portal after he took a visit to Indiana. Not sure how much the Hoosiers pushed for him, but clearly Indiana showed enough interest to bring him on campus for a visit. I think that injury, the ACL tear to Alls, is going to set up guys like Harper to have a bigger role for Iowa State this coming fall. And, Harper's had an interesting career arc. He played a lot in his time at BYU, more than 25 career appearances, I believe. Had an injury there that led him to missing a season, saw his role kind of dwindle, and then he transfers down to the FCS level, has a lot of success with a good Montana program at that level. Now he's back in the Big 12. So I'm really intrigued to see what type of impact he can make. Maybe doesn't always have the greatest physical size or traits, but as someone who has been productive at BYU and someone who I think Iowa State can probably rely on to give them a large number of snaps and potentially be a starter for them as well in the back end.
Iowa State last year was really defined by its defense. Didn't give up more than 21 points in any of the 8 victories. How much is it intact? I mean, the offense sounds like it's just all transfer portal. Is there anything left from that defense? Because that defense was pretty good. They weren't great, but they were pretty good.
Yeah, there's a couple guys. On the defensive line, Zamir Hawk returns. I actually think he's a better fit in this new defensive scheme than the old one. He was just kind of a tweener between positions on that three-man front that they ran under the previous coaching staff. They do retain a couple of linebackers. Carson Willick would be the one that I think is set to contribute the most. He struggled to stay healthy throughout his career, but if he can stay healthy, I know the staff feels confident in his just kind of football IQ, some of his leadership at the middle of the defense. And then in the secondary, it is a lot of new players. Like you mentioned, they do retain a couple guys. David Coffey at corner is one who I think that they're bullish on being able to start. Has very limited experience in terms of on-the-field stuff, but he'll be a third-year player this season as well.
Are Iowa State fans more upset that Kalani Sitake didn't take the Penn State job or that Campbell did?
I think they're more upset that Matt Campbell took the job. I don't know if they hold any ill will to Kalani Sitake for staying. I think that this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to cover a coaching transition professionally. I did it once when I was in college as a student journalist, and I'm much more into it now, and the environment of the way it all works is much more different now. In the last couple of weeks, there's been some frustration, I think, boil over with some commentary that Matt Campbell has made on like the Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman podcast on On3 about recruiting some of the transfers to Penn State and, getting emotional, hosting them and their families for visits. He took, I think, about 20 to 25 Iowa State players with him to Happy Valley. And I think that kind of feels like to Iowa State fans that he left and then he burned the house down on the way out as well. I certainly understand why those feelings would exist, but I also would just ask the question, what is he supposed to do? It's kind of just the way the world works. And Jimmy Rogers brought 15 players with him from Washington State. I wrote on my website earlier this week that I think it's a great example of just like, don't hate the player, hate the game. And sometimes the game right now and the way that college athletics is set up, it can be really frustrating for the fan, especially when you think about all the roster turnover, particularly when there is a coaching change. I think some fans understand that a little bit better than others. I think some fans understand that once Campbell left, he didn't really owe anything to Iowa State anymore, but there's still the hurt feelings of, man, he left and he took all these players with him, and we were expecting or hoping, speaking from the thought of a fan, they thought that I think 2026 could be a really good year for them, and he left right before that. So I think that's kind of part of what cuts a little bit deeper for Iowa State fans.
The parallels aren't perfect, but you wouldn't be surprised if we saw a few parallels with Kyle Whittingham going to Michigan.
Yeah, and I know that just following it from afar that they lost some players from Utah to Michigan, a couple guys on the defensive line, but maybe not nearly the volume. And I think Morgan Scalley was able to keep some of that roster intact just because he was a coach in waiting and he was on staff. So there was a familiarity there that those Ute players had with Scalley, and there was an ability to kind of keep some continuity while also losing. The offensive coordinator goes to Ann Arbor. They lost some other players at various positions as well, but there are some similarities for sure. I think Iowa State just kind of took it to the extreme.
Yeah. Well, Alec, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us, and I guess you will still be figuring out when Iowa State plays Utah on September 26th and travels to BYU on October 10th. Maybe by then there'll be a little clarity.
Hopefully before that BYU game, I've got a good grasp, and hopefully by that Utah game when we may talk again, I'm able to give you guys some more insight on where the Cyclones are officially at. But thank you guys so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully you got some good weather out there.
There's Alec Busse talking Iowa State football. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
Thumbtack presents Tile Trouble. Every single time I use my sink, I make eye contact with the uneven grout on my kitchen backsplash. The crooked corners eye me, and I'm haunted by more tiling questions than I thought possible. What kind of pro can fix a backsplash? Can I replace one cracked tile, or should I replace them all? What if I just use Thumbtack? I can hire top-rated pros, read reviews, and compare prices with a tap, all on the app. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
Shea wants it and gets it. Lifted high left on Castle to the baseline. Steps back, fires from the wing. An 18-foot jumper. Nothing but net. Gilgeous Alexander rips the corners. He has 30 in game 2. Jarrett gingerly across the timeline. Out front to Hartenstein. Back to McCain. 3 for 3 straight away. Banks it. In and out and back in again. He didn't call glass, it doesn't matter. Cha-ching, that's Thunder money ball number 13. Shea across the timeline draws a double. Left wing Wallace. Down the lane, Caruso to the rim for finishing touches, baby. AC lays it in with the left hand. Thunder 122, the Spurs 113. We're on the brink of getting this thing even at Paycom Center.
The Western Conference Finals tied at 1 game apiece after the Thunder beat the Spurs 122-113. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scores 30 to pace OKC. Really good game for Victor Wembanyama, but not spectacular, off the charts crazy like Game 1. And that swing alone, PK, can explain how the Thunder got the win in this one. Although there's other storylines for sure.
Well, I think the rebounding, go look at the discrepancy between Game 1 and Game 2, the Spurs dominated the boards. Here they were only up 4. And I think that allowed the Thunder to get more possessions. The game a little bit better than they did in Game 1.
Turnovers a big deal again. Castle had 11 in the first game, had 9 in this one. The 21-9 disparity there. A lot more shots for the Thunder. You average about 0 points per possession when you're turning it over.
Well, 10 more to be exact.
Three-point shooting was pretty even in this one. It is turning into a little bit of a battle of attrition here. 4 guys leaving the game or not playing at all in the case of Fox, and injured and hasn't played neither of the first 2 games.
Bismarck Biyombo, he didn't play.
Yeah, that's true. Bismack. Not Bismarck.
Bismack, actually.
Bismack. No R.
Well, not for me.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you. You can correct me all you want, but I ain't going to change my mind. I'm going to call him Bismarck.
We saw multiple guys leaving the game. Harper left the game. Jalen Williams left the game, only played 7 minutes. Mitchell late seemed to injure his groin, so he ended up playing 28 minutes in this game. We'll see if he's available for Game 3. Tonight, though, it's Game 2 in the East. Cleveland and New York, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Can the Knicks do it again? NBL rookie teams announced. Ace Bailey on the second team, all rookie. Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, VJ Edgecombe, Dylan Harper, Cedric Coward, the first teamers. Good enough with Ace Bailey? Getting the second team?
If I'm him, man, that's just motivate me. Every single weight I lift, every shot I take, every time I walk in the gym, he better be there because it's 7:05. Ain't no sleeping in. If you want to be a superstar, Kobe Bryant would all be ready on his second workout. What's it going to be, Ace Bailey? Some dude I ain't heard of? Joey Coward? What was his name there? And he's making it?
Cedric Coward, but okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, man. They call him Joey. That ought to provide motivation for you. Get in that gym. Get in that weight room.
The Trailblazers new owner, Tom Dundon, cost-cutting measures, speeding forward. He's let 70 team employees go across multiple departments. Were they fat and happy?
Team
or is he going to be
director,
cheap?
team reporter?
I found that funny because he's taken all sorts of heat.
Yeah.
But the Jazz owner did the same thing. It just didn't make as much noise.
Yeah, six executives, including one who had been over us.
And the Jazz owner doesn't go on a podcast and say, I didn't understand the business.
Yeah, Tom probably didn't help himself in the OPR department there. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
Yeah, I love Mike T. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in last year and love my experience with him. And, you know, I thought when he said he was stepping away, that was an emotional moment just because we all love him so much and care about him. And, you know, I thought that that was probably it for me in Pittsburgh. But when the decision was made to hire Mike, I started opening my mind back up to coming back.
Could be your last year. Do you even think of that right now?
Yes. This is it, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, one more year. His old Packer coach, Mike McCarthy, is in Pittsburgh, so he'll do one more. And depending on bonuses, pull down $25 million or so. Cleveland Browns coach Todd Monken praising second-year quarterback Shedeur Sanders' progress as Sanders competes to be the team starter. I think Shedeur has come miles in terms of his progressions, getting the ball out, his understanding of concepts. I think he's really come a long way. 2 reallys.
I mean, better off his victim here, but I got a story that says right here. Read that. The headline.
Embarrassing. Todd Monken calls out Shadur Sanders and others after disappointing Browns OTA session.
Which one is it?
Which one is it? Where are we going with this?
We threw interception on 7 and 7, for God's sake. I mean, who does that? There's no pass rush. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Regardless of what anybody says, as loaded as the next QB draft is supposed to be, they have a good year of quarterback production. They don't have to draft somebody. They have a mediocre or bad year. They draft somebody.
You just solved their problems. Nice.
There it is. They can tell us whatever they want, but there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks available next year.
There are? You've been studying the quarterback draft?
Raiders coach Clint Kubiak says the top overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, has impressed him and the rest of the team with his performance so far. He's working his tail off. It's very important to him that he asks a lot of great questions when he gets on the field. He's no BS, he's all ball.
Oh, that. I'm putting that on my tombstone.
No BS, all ball?
He was all BS, no ball.
You're going to flip it.
The epitaph grows longer.
Yeah. You just wait.
Take Fernando Mendoza and reverse it.
It's coming sooner than you think. Well, it's got to be past tense, because I'd be dead. And I'm telling you, man, I'm gifting the Raiders 45 years later their marketing campaign, Fernando Mania Part 2.
Just saw stats on Fernando, comparing Shohei's numbers to Fernando Mania numbers.
Well, he hasn't played a game yet. He didn't have any numbers.
Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow feeling bullish about the makeup of the team's roster. Proclaimed the 2026 Bengals the most talented roster we've had since I've been here. We got guys that work really hard to put themselves in position to perform well, perform to our standard, and we haven't necessarily done that for a couple of years. So we brought some guys in who've been there and done that and have their own standard of play and are going to live up to that.
Oh, I'm going to put that on my tombstone. Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. All BS, no ball.
That's sort of a takeoff of what your tombstone will read. But
I can't wait to hear this. What do you got?
Well, I can't really say it on the air. I would just plural one of those words.
Oh. Why you got to be like that?
Because it's a work day.
On Saturday, you're not like this?
Oh, no. Much nicer.
Saturday's totally different. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Well, the judge set to preside over the Brendan Sorsby lawsuit seeking an injunction to allow the quarterback to play at Texas Tech has recused himself from the proceeding. Texas 99th Circuit Judge Philip Hayes is a Lubbock, Texas native, and he earned both his undergraduate and his law degrees from Texas Tech. So he's going to step aside and let another judge handle this case.
Well, I don't understand how this works. Why would he get assigned the case in the first place?
An excellent question.
So then there has to be no recusal. Couldn't they figure it out?
It was filed in 99th Circuit Court, which is what he presides over.
You know, if only you knew someone
in 98th Court.
If only you knew someone who worked in the court their entire life, you were close to them, if you had them in your phone and had regular communication, you could ask and have this probably explained to you.
It is just the darndest.
Your sister could lay it all out.
Oh, here come the judge.
LSU's hired former Tiger head coach Ed Orgeron to serve as special assistant to recruiting and defense on Lane Kiffin's staff. Orgeron, of course, led the Tigers to the 2019 National Championship with Joe Burrow going 15-0.
I think that's recruiting and defense. We don't call it defense.
Defense.
Is that a soccer thing?
Defense.
Yeah. Like, you're not you're
the defensive coordinator. Or the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, right.
I always said defense.
Right, but if it's just defense, if you add the IVE, then it changes it.
Mm-hmm.
And did you see this, Yak? Moa Havili, one of the breakout stars of the all-season, is committed to BYU?
Yes, sir.
And this is, who's Greg Biggins?
Works for On3.com.
On3.com. Quote.
Moa Havili.
He's Well, he has MAA apostrophe MIMOA.
He goes by Moa.
Well, but in the full name, I want to give our listeners the full thing here. He quotes him. BYU is the dream school for me and the Lord's school. It's family over there. You think BYU is the Lord's school, DJ?
Of course.
You should have been a DB. You backpedal better than anybody I know.
I thought that would crack you up. I thought, of course, would do it.
Have those hands ever gotten dirty in the business?
Yes, they have.
They have? Oh, go ahead. The floor's yours. No, I don't mean when you're ragging on other coworkers and they're ragging on you. I'm talking about in the business.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. The floor's yours.
What do you want?
Explain it.
BYU was pretty mad over what some BYU fans later called Sockgate.
Well, you got dirty?
I believe Scott Gerard and I did. I believe you were right there, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't. I thought it was all Scotty who took the blame.
Nope.
It was you?
Believe the Jazz once put out a comment, no comment, trying to make something I reported look bad. And in the fall, Steve Loom wrote that Kevin O'Connor was in the Carolinas. 6 months of Boulder Jack getting asked at public appearances about that. That was fun.
That's what's awesome about it. He can remember literal examples.
You wanted examples? The floor was mine. There's examples.
And you survived. See? Say, wait a second, the Lord's school? What is that?
Oregon has filed a lawsuit against former defensive back Dakota Fields seeking $10,000 as part of a previous agreement that released him from his contract with the school. He was expected to pay the university $39,882, and if Fields paid the amount discussed on or before April 20, the school would waive the remaining $10,000. He missed the deadline, has refused to pay the $10,000, so there's a lawsuit. More of this: schools suing players. A lot of money changing hands. There'll be more of this.
I don't know what Oregon's going to do without $10,000.
Right? Setting a standard, holding the line on all the other players.
Hold the line!
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Palacios runs. It's outside. Throw down to second base. Safe. Throw home. Fillade steals home. And the Rays have a 5-3 lead.
First pitch from Vasquez. Ohtani swings and sends it high in the air to deep right center. Merrill back at the wall. It is gone! Shohei Ohtani mauls the first pitch from Randy Vasquez. A leadoff home run. 1-0 Dodgers in a hurry.
Shohei Ohtani. They had to put him back in the lineup, huh, PK? They had to do it right then in San Diego. He hasn't been hitting and pitching on the same day. They decided to give it a shot again, and he takes the first pitch deep, and then he throws 5 shutout innings, gets himself out of a bases-loaded jam, calls it a day, and the Dodgers win 4-0. They take 2 out of 3 from the Padres.
Nothing left for me to say. You covered it.
Could have left him in the dugout. Didn't have to let him hit. Come on. What are you doing? You heard the Rays win again, 21-4 in their last 25. They are flying, a 5-3 win for the Rays as they beat the Orioles. And the Milwaukee Bucks also on fire, 11-2 in their last 13. They sweep the Cubbies, who've now lost 5 straight. Cubbies had a great hot streak of their own, but
I think that's the Milwaukee Brewers.
The Milwaukee Brewers, yes. I don't know what I just said. The Milwaukee Brewers sweep the Cubbies, and the Brewers have won 11 of 13. And the Cubbies, who are flying high, well, as you like to say, it's 162 games. You are who you are, and a lot of these streaks can't be sustained. And the Cubs coming back to earth.
Milwaukee with the 19th highest payroll. Tampa Bay with the 28th out of 30.
Tampa Bay, 28 out of 30, competing against some of the biggest payrolls in baseball over there in the AL East. Are there
competing against all of them?
Are there big payrolls in the Central? The Brewers are at 19. I always view the Central as not having as big a payrolls. Maybe the Cubs do. I don't know. I haven't looked.
The Cubs are 8th.
Yeah. The Pirates.
Detroit's 10th.
Yeah. The Pirates and the Cardinals, the Brewers, I usually think that they're usually pretty modest with the old
Pirates
payrolls.
are 22nd.
That whole division has a winning record.
Cincinnati is 20.
Yeah.
Colorado getting its money's worth. They're 21st. St. Louis, 24th.
So the Cubbies with easily the biggest payroll, and the Brewers actually with the second biggest payroll in the division. Brewers leading the Cardinals and the Cubs by a game and a half, and everybody in that division still has a winning record, almost 50 games in. Bees blown out by Tacoma 13-1. Game 3 in the series is tonight. First pitch set for 6:35. Tony Park's on the air on 1280 The Zone, calling the games. DJ and PK.
Hashtag golf.
PGA Tour. Taking part in the old CJ Cup. Byron Nelson at the TPC Craig Ranch in McKinney, Texas. Tony Finau, Zach Blair, and Patrick Fishburne with the local ties in the field this week. BYU finished fourth in the Athens Regional. They have qualified for the NCAA Golf Championships in Carlsbad. Cougars moving on out of the regional. They advance. Utes did not. BYU baseball did not advance. They got beat in their conference tournament. But the BYU golf team on to the national championships. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
McNabb gets the puck. He is undercut and goes down. Avalanche get it as a result. Feeds in the middle. Taves the shot pad save. Eichel the rebound. He lofts it toward the goal. Wide. Race for the puck. Down ahead of the pack. No icing. He scores. Nick Dowd turns on the afterburners. Empty net goal. And the Knights lead by 2 with 45 seconds to play.
Vegas beats Colorado 4-2 in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Took a 3-zip lead early in the third period and held on to win it. The Eastern Finals start tonight. Montreal's at Carolina, 6 o'clock on TNT for that one. Montreal just knocked out Buffalo. The Sabres gave head coach Lindy Ruff a 2-year extension after their first playoff appearance in 14 years. That was an NHL record for longest playoff drought for a franchise. Slacker Radio, what is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. David Smoak, host of the Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas, is going to join us. Our spring football tour has taken us to Baylor, coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. And Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, is going to join us at 9 o'clock. We'll talk NBA playoffs with him and NBA draft. How would he rank the top players? And Boozer's been 3 in a lot of the mock drafts, but there are people who think he might go a little higher to the Jazz. We'll talk to Andy Bailey about that. Stay with us. DJ and PK, the question of the day is next.
For Jazz fans, it's been a rough few years. Well, those days are behind us as the Utah Jazz finally struck gold in the NBA Draft Lottery.
Picking second.
As the Jazz prepare to draft a potential superstar with the number 2 overall pick, nobody will bring you better coverage of the NBA Draft than the KSL Sports Zone. For all the breaking news, high-profile interviews, and player analysis leading right up to draft night, keep it locked on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5. The KSL Sports Zone.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
DJ and PK, it is time for the question of the day. Your hot takes. Is it hot takes or toast? Should the Jazz give a serious look at Cam Boozer? Consensus number 3 pick in the draft. Williams says, in my opinion, the Utah Jazz are going to pick whoever gives them the best chance to compete with Wemby. And that translates to shooters from deep. With Boozer's size and accuracy, I believe his stock has increased. On the other hand, the Jazz also need ball handlers, so it's going to be really interesting.
I agree with that. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think they can use whatever.
Brandon says the upside to Cam, he's also a pretty good ball handler, too. Not run the offense guy, but if he gets the ball 18 feet from the hoop, he can put it on the floor and get to the bucket.
Yeah.
I don't want him running the offense, but...
It's like a pitcher being a good base runner.
It's bonus. It's good, but it's not really what I'm looking for.
Yeah. As long as when he bounces the ball that it comes back up to him.
That's all you really ask.
I'm good to go.
And he can do that through a little bit of traffic.
I would think so.
Yep.
I would think most guys could do that.
I think he can change direction. I think he can go with both hands. So
any perimeter, any guy who's capable of being on the perimeter can do that.
Tavita says the Jazz should take a look at the best two-way player on offense and defense, a.k.a. A-Cuff. He's going with your theory. He's at least partially buying into it.
Yeah,
trust a guy who's put a lot of guys into pros.
You're talking about Calipari there.
John Calipari recognizes a lot of talent. It's undeniable, his track record. He's now a veteran coach. He's not the kid who broke on the scene, and we saw so many guys go through.
6 years old, something like that?
Yeah. And we've seen so many guys who rolled through Kentucky the last 15 years or so while he was there. Just one guy after another. And some of them were really high picks. Some of them were maybe more middle first-round picks. And the one thing they had in common is when they got to the NBA, they looked pretty good.
Oh, yeah, high picks, middle picks, as you say. Tyrese Maxey, SGA.
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker was a middle pick. Yeah. And it's funny because it's hard to really, really decipher to where with these kids coming out playing only 1 year of college ball, the game is advanced now, so 1 year of college ball doesn't mean what it meant 25, 30 years ago.
Fact. Agreed.
You are around gymnasiums and whatnot, and you see these kids at a much younger age. So it is a little misleading, but at the same time, you're going up against in these summer things kids your own age. Well, in the NBA, there is no age. It doesn't matter. And you're going up against guys who are 6, 7 years, 8 years older than you, and the grown men, as they say. And so there's still a fair amount of projection that goes into it. And that's what makes it so dang intriguing, which makes it fun. Because if it were so blatantly obvious, then anybody could do it. But not anybody can do it. And even the best can't do it all the time.
True story.
And so that's what just makes it so intriguing. And there's so much riding on it for teams. The Jazz, this is the crowning achievement of the 4-year rebuild, right? In terms of getting the draft selection at a time when you want the draft selection to be as high as possible. You always want it to be, but sometimes there's not the players there that have the potential to have the impact as these kids do. So this is imperative. You must score in the 90-plus percentile in terms of getting this right. You can't just get a B-minus guy, because there's a B-minus guy is fine in a lot of drafts because there's not A's ahead of you or taken after you. Here, we can pretty much almost guarantee, without actually guaranteeing it, which is an oxymoron, that there's going to be somebody drafted after 2 who's going to end up being an A player.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And if they had gotten unlucky in the lottery, and if they were drafted 6th or 7th, you couldn't say that with the same level of energy and put the same emphasis on it you did. But at 2, somebody's going to pay off.
Yeah, if not multiple.
Somebody's going to pay. But you can't draft everybody. As long as you get a guy who's an A, that's great.
That is all that matters. If you get yourself an A, then whoever drafts whomever, good on them.
Right. And you've used this example before. Houston gets an A for drafting Akeem Olajuwon. They drafted a guy who won 2 NBA titles. Now, it turns out there was an A++ who got a perfect score on the SAT and, I don't know, got a Harvard Law and then went to Oxford or something, or Cambridge or wherever Pat Hayden went on that Rhodes Scholar. I don't know where you go. University of Rhodes? I don't know what you do. But you go overseas. I mean, there's Jordan was
I would
so
have gone
off the
Bill
charts.
Bradley.
Oh, Bill Bradley. Where'd he go? He was a smart guy on the next. Princeton. Okay.
Jersey,
baby. My bad.
Jersey, Rhodes Scholar to the Knicks.
Okay. There you go.
But you know what they can do here? This is This is something that is a little bit of an add-on. And the reason why the Boozer thing is that all the more intriguing is because, as you say, he's pegged at number 3, right? And Memphis has the 3rd pick. And Memphis, what they need is A to Z and everything in between.
Yep.
Right? So they're just going to draft the best player that they think is available. And they may have a crush on Cam Boozer, right? And so maybe the Jazz like him, but they don't have that crush. And this is where my guy DA can come in and say Memphis really wants him. Okay. And we're all hung up on the Jazz moving up to get Dybantsa, and what are they going to give up to Washington? Well, let's step back a little bit, and they can be in a driver's seat. They're in a driver's seat with every other team outside of Washington. And Memphis feels like, man, we need a low post guy. When we were at our best, we had Zach Randolph going over his shoulder and putting the ball in the hoop. And so we want that power guy, and we love Boozer. Okay, what are you willing to give up for him? Because maybe they like Acuff. Maybe fill in the blank. Let's just use him as an example, right? And maybe they think, hey, this guy, he's somebody that we may think can be better than Darren Peterson. So they can get some assets.
Move back and get the guy they want and get some assets along the way.
And what is Memphis desperate for?
We know Danny Ainge has done that before.
That's why I'm talking my guy DA.
Yep.
And so that's something that is in play. We're so focused on them. What would they want to give up? And we've all, in our amateur analysis, have ruled out Ace Bailey, and I think the Jazz have too, from what I understand. And, okay, so maybe that's just not going to happen. But maybe they're over there thinking, hey, we still are dealing from a position of strength here, so we can get – let's use Acuff since the poster brought it up. We can get him – and he's just as good as, or he'll be even better in 2 or 3 or 4 years.
We believe the guy who's going to be an A is.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then we can, and you want Boozer? Fine.
Right.
And we'll give you him, but you give us something back. Now, they've already made a deal with them, so they have some relationships. So maybe there's something there in a year or two. Or do you feel like and we're all fans here, and all these fans, we're just throwing stuff out. That's the essence of sports radio, is to discuss these things and have fun with it. And maybe you, Joe Jazz fan or Gina Jazz fan, is thinking, no, I don't want more draft picks because that pushes out. We got to wait. I'm tired of waiting. They're going to go all in. We get it. But, you got Bill Armstrong over here with the Mammoth saying our best team isn't here yet. But they got these guys and they're coming. Well, maybe they've already gone through the long rebuild. We didn't have to go through it. We only went through a year of them being in town, not being in the playoff. But the Jazz people, the Jazz fans are saying, no, I don't want more draft capital. Give me players who can help win now. And realizing, okay, we're not going to win the title in 26, 27, but how about 27, 28, and 28, 29? And I don't want to wait because if I get a draft pick for 2-3 years down the road, then I got to wait 2 or 3 more years before that kid is developed. And by that time, I'm in 2032. No. That might be somebody have that opinion too.
Can they talk to the Bulls?
Yeah.
If they want to go to 4, maybe they want Caleb or Acuff. And the Bulls are like, hey, we want our guy, and we got to jump Memphis because Memphis is going to take our guy.
Yes.
When I heard those original stories, I read one about and the supposition was that, the Jazz aren't going to call Washington because then they'll have the leverage. Washington know how desperate they are. But Washington won't call the Jazz because then the Jazz will know they've got a little leverage on Washington. So there'll be a stare-off before they talk about trading the top pick. That was one writer's thing. And then a story came out pretty quickly, and it seemed like the Jazz called everybody.
Right.
And so you just right out of the gate, you're just like, hey, I do our due diligence. This is a sign of desperation. Like, we'll call in Washington, we'll call in Chicago, we'll call in Memphis, and let's see what it is as far as trading up or down and get the we're just doing our homework. There's no
I don't think there's a psychological game to be played there because fill in the blank team. It so happens to be the Jazz, and AJ has an unusual connection. This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal. We're never going to have this again. There's never going to be a player from Utah unless AJ, in 40 years from now, has a kid.
All these things have to line up. A kid who leaves where they're from to play a year of high school ball in Utah and then goes to a local school and holds on to the number one the whole time, and the Jazz are drafting right at the top. All these things, even if it happens,
and the ownership
the Jazz,
and GM and
our alumni,
CEO
are all alumni, because it would have to be BYU
right. The Angels,
assuming Ryan Smith's
and Hatback
owned
are all
this team
BYU
for a few
guys.
decades. I mean, he's young enough here.
Where did Jay-Z go? We ought to find out, see if there's any connection
there. Honestly, shouldn't every team be playing that? Hey, I'm just at my alma mater. Hey.
But I don't think they lose leverage by calling Washington, because Washington wants to do what it's best for itself, obviously, and so the Jazz may present an offer that ends up being what the Washington management thinks. Yeah, this is in our best interest to do this.
So Justin Zanuck is a proud graduate of Northwestern.
Okay, well, I don't know any Northwestern guys in the NBA.
It's all going to change in the NIL era. They're going to have some billionaire Northwestern grad who conquered Chicago and is awash in cash. We'll start
we've had
basketball.
NIL for years. How good has Northwestern been?
Well, it hasn't worked yet. That guy doesn't. He only has millions. He needs billions.
Okay.
He'll get there.
Yeah, Northwestern, when they played here in the Delta Center, and the young kid was crying.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't made
and
the
they had
tournament forever.
they had Julia Louis-Dreyfus's son on the team.
It wasn't, and Doug Collins' son was
something like that. Yeah. By the way, did you know that Justin Zanuck was initially a major in music opera before switching to economics?
I did. Yes, I did.
You did not. Stop it.
Don't doubt me. Oh!
Right now, Justin Zanuck is sorry that he ever studied music and put it in his Wikipedia.
I hope people are watching that on YouTube. Like, the performance was awesome.
Well, I've been to the opera, people.
Fell asleep, but you were there.
No.
We need to ask Jay-Z about this. How's your opera background?
Yeah.
Jay-Z will avoid us like the plague.
He and I, the two tenors.
He's got work to do. He doesn't need this kind of headache. And Jay-Z right now is like, I'm all ball, no BS. Put it on my tombstone.
I've got prospects to look at. Leave me alone.
That'd be about the answer I'd expect.
That's what's so funky in this world, because these guys, it's obsessing their brains right now. And then they've got to make sure that they get it right.
Yeah.
And they'll celebrate. They'll think they got it right. But the great thing about it, and one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, is when they make their public comments, they can't say, well, we had this guy much higher on our list. That they like to say. We're very fortunate he fell to us. No, you can't do that this time.
He fell all of one spot.
If AJ goes 1 and Darren goes 2, like, we didn't have that clown at number 1.
You always hear that. I wanted to hear the other way. This guy much lower. We figured out what the heck.
Whatever.
It would take a fly.
We didn't really think any of them are any good, so we picked the 27th guy on our list for the 12th pick.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then if it doesn't work, well, we don't feel as bad because we didn't have that. Our expectations are very high for him. You never would hear that. It's always, well, he had a much higher. Yeah. They can't say that this time. But they also have plenty of position of strength.
How so?
Because they can make a move. There's only one player. The draft be ballyhooed as a great draft since whenever. I'm not a draft freak.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Only one of those guys will be gone.
Right. And you're sitting here like, 3 of these guys are awesome. The 4th is very good. But really, 8 deep, you could still find an all-star, and you'll certainly find a starter. Yeah, there are going to be plenty of good players on the board when they pick.
Yeah.
As opposed to sitting there crossing your fingers hoping one guy falls to you because you think the rest of the guys can't really play.
And I also think, that's absolutely, I agree with that 100%. But you look at the teams that are at the top, right? What's the draft order? Do you know it by heart, or do you need to look it up? If you do, look it up.
Number 1, Washington.
Okay,
Number 2, Utah, Memphis, Chicago, and then I don't. Clippers. The Clippers were 5 because Indiana fell, and the Clippers got their pick.
So you can argue maybe the Clippers, but the other teams are they've been rebuilding, and they look like they're still in rebuild mode. The Jazz, they have the rare opportunity to not be in rebuild mode.
Yeah, I would say the teams that are pretty strong here in the top 10 are the Jazz, the Clippers, Brooklyn, Sacramento, maybe Atlanta at 8 if they hit. Are they pretty close? Or Dallas at 9 because they have Flag?
No, I think Dallas is in full rebuild mode.
Yeah, okay.
And I would be surprised if Kyrie Irving is still on the team. What do you need a 30-something Kyrie Irving for when your focal point is literally 20 years old?
Milwaukee, depending on whether they trade for the future or trade for a veteran?
Either way.
They're at 10.
I think either way.
The Warriors are 11, kind of, we've talked about that, just kind of hanging on to the end. Yeah, right. Oklahoma City at 12.
All right, OKC isn't.
So you're pretty far down at that point.
Right. And you probably wouldn't deal with them. The Jazz
are the team.
They're ready to win.
Yeah, they're the team most likely to take a big jump.
They're going to get a good pick, a great pick, and are ready to win. So they can deal a little bit more. They're not as desperate. Everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to go through a 4-year rebuild. Yeah. And so the other teams, they may feel a greater need to deal. And they may not think about the whatever pick down the line. So the Jazz have a lot of options, and it's not simply trading up to get Dybantsa. I mean, if they do, great. If they don't, I'm not going to sweat it. Although I'm certainly going to watch whatever Dybantsa. Dybantsa is going to be our new Michigan.
I was going to say he's our new Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to watch this kid wherever he goes. We're going to look at every single box score. He's probably going to be on the television a fair amount. We're going to watch him.
There will be more Washington Wizards basketball watched in this state if he goes there.
We're all going to watch him, every single one of us, to see what he does. And the one thing I want to say well ahead of time, no matter who it is, let's not go crazy on a 19, 20-year-old in his first year. Let's not make, he's a bust or he's going to be a superstar. Let's give it at least 2 years. Can we at least do that? Because we all want to rush to judgment.
All right, fine.
But we'll make opinions. But if it doesn't work as well as we anticipate, no matter who it is, all of these guys, let's just slow the flow a little bit and give him some time. And really, I can say that most especially about the Jazz because he doesn't figure, whoever it might be, to get a lot of FGAs right off the bat.
Coming up next, we have a post from Kyle, and Eric goes right at him. Eric posts quite a bit with an interesting take. We will get to that next. This is the debate. Do you trust the expert consensus? We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
And now, a look at traffic from the KSL Traffic Center.
Got a new crash southbound I-15 on the off-ramp for University Parkway in Orem. Is over on the left shoulder. Be aware of that if you're getting off in that area. Also have a disabled vehicle on the 201 freeway as you're approaching the I-215 merge. That's causing some delay through that area as well. Also be aware if you're trying to get out of Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs, 2100 North and Quarry Ride Highway been a little bogged down this morning. Traffic's rough. Your parking lot doesn't have to be. Keep it smoother than your summer playlist with GoPave Utah. Go to GoPaveUtah.com. That's GoPaveUtah.com. Call them today or once again visit them at GoPaveUtah.com with your KSL traffic update. I'm Jake Hatch right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome to This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
It seems like there's a little more buzz out there about the Jazz possibly trading up because they love A.J. Dybantsa. Absolutely do not do it. Because I think both players are going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's one of those win-win type scenarios. But if there is a wrong decision to be made, Washington's going to make it.
Sure.
Whoever falls to the Jazz is going to be the better of the two. I would almost bet on it.
I don't think there's a lot of value in the Jazz feeling like they should go nuts to get up to that number 1 overall pick. If the picks are that close, why are you giving up a ton to get there? And then if they're not close and there's a major drop-off from number 1 to number 2, why would Washington trade it? Washington needs that guy. They think there's a superstar at 1 and only an okay player at 2, and the Jazz are trying to get out of that spot. Why would the Wizards do that? I don't think the logic actually adds up.
Don't be the sucker. Let Washington pick the guy that they want to pick. And honestly, if Jazz gets stuck, quote-unquote, with Darren Peterson, who cares? He's a great player.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, the question of the morning is, should the Utah Jazz take a serious look at Cam Boozer? Consensus says he's the 3 pick. They're picking 2. Kyle says, absolutely consider any and all top talent, do your diligence, but at the end of the day, stick to the expert consensus of AJ or DP.
Only if that's your expert consensus.
And Eric, expert consensus, question mark? No. In 1984, the experts like Sam Bowie at number 2, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and John Stockton were on the board. In 04, Darko was the popular number 2 pick, but Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh went 3, 4, 5. In 2011, the experts like Michael Beasley at 2, and then you had Klay Thompson at 10 and Kawhi Leonard at 15. In 2014, Giannis was 14, Gobert was 27th. Do you remember the consensus number 2 pick that year? Expert consensus is only one data point. It is not always right. So Eric is like, hey, easy on the group think there. The number 2 pick that year was Jabari Parker.
He was derailed by injury.
Yep.
Who knows what it would have been. I think that, to me, this reminds me, and I've had many discussions with coaches here in town about this very thing, and it reminds me of recruiting. What did they see? What did Kyle and his guys, and I'm just one example off the top of my head, Devin Lloyd, what did they see in him that others didn't? And they brought him along, and then he ends up being a first-round draft choice. And we can go down the list, right? I mean,
but he did not go
one
to
guy.
He did not go to a powerhouse school. He didn't go to a Mater Dei or Long Beach Poly or something. He went to a school, and quite frankly, a league that doesn't crank out that many. But they found one guy in that area.
Right.
And they were right.
And so you can go down this list, and I review it as recruiting. And what do you see? And go with what you think, because you're going to have to live with it. The experts aren't going to have to live with it. I mean, there was one guy that they accused of his mock drafts and then changing them after the fact.
Yeah.
So you don't know what it's going to be, and you can't simply go with, well, that's the common perception. That, to me, that's like, well, gosh, don't blame us then. Everybody said that. No, you're passing the buck. Go with what you think. Don't go from the negative. If you think X player is this or that, then do it. I mean, the Nets, I think they did that last year with Yegor. Wasn't anticipated to go as high, but he did. And he had a pretty good season. He shot the ball way better in the pros than he did in the college ranks. So whatever you think is what you should do, because you're going to have to live with it, good or bad. The experts aren't going to have to live with it, good or bad. They move on to the next class.
That's exactly how that works. But you're definitely going to wear it, because people always do what that poster right there did. You go back and look at the drafts and like, somebody goofed here. This is a major mistake.
Right. And there's your boy, the Herd, has made a number of things, predictions about players. And the ones that he's wrong, and I'm sure he's gotten stuff right. Everybody gets some wrong or some right. Yeah. But the point I'm making, you can go back and look, and he'll tell you, this guy's going to be a bust, blah, 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 blah. And he's still making millions.
Yep.
He didn't lose his job.
No. Making so many millions.
Whereas in the
GMs
leaderships.
GMs get fired.
Yeah.
They get run.
Yeah. So you got to go with whatever your research. And I don't want to just sit here and say, oh, just go with your gut. No.
No, not your gut. But you've got.
But you can do that, but you got to have 500 other things too.
But your gut, yes. The gut instinct is built on a bedrock foundation of 500 facts. I mean, you've got these huge staffs. You're traveling all over the place, literally. Random gyms in Europe. If you got to go to Australia, you got to go to Australia. Wherever you got to go.
Ultimately, it is your gut based on all this information.
Yeah.
Because the Jazz are going to have, it's like a buffet of desserts. Which one do I really want? Now, I know I'm going to get calories on this. But the one I want and the one I pick, it better be worth all those calories.
Nathan says, given management's track record over the past few years, I'd rather trust their scouting and interview results over the national hype or the general consensus, the media or the social media. He wants a management's track record.
That's just not true.
What?
Read the first part again.
Given management's track record over the past few years.
The track record is actually excellent.
No, that's what he's saying. He says, given the track record of the past few years, I'd rather trust their scouting and interview results.
Oh, I thought you were saying. I thought he was saying, given their track record, trust the scouts, don't trust you. Trust the guys on the ground level. But he's saying trust them all internally. I get it now. Okay.
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah. No, he's saying, hey, where you got Sensabaugh, there's value. Where you got Filipowski, there's value. Whether you got how these guys have been.
Where they got Hendricks because they helped flip them and Clayton for Jaren Jackson.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So he's all about that. He's not trusting the national hype and general consensus. And he's probably someone who can go back and think, well, that's where the national hype was wrong. That's where the national hype was wrong. Now, to be fair, a lot of this consensus you see from the media is because they do go to tournaments and see these guys in international play and all that. There's like that Jonathan. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Givoni, is that right, Yuck?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, and so I read he's at tournaments, so post photos and all that. And so he has his opinion, but some of what they report is based on what the NBA teams tell him. Mm-hmm. And obviously, the Pistons were wrong with Darko Milicic. So sometimes it's. Yeah, what you see in the media, and the media is wrong. Sometimes it's their own opinion, but sometimes it's the opinion of what they're told. Because you talk to the Pistons people, and they tell you Marco, and then they write it.
That goes along.
100%.
And it's the old idea, oh, wait, he's a 3-star? SC's recruiting him? No, he's a 4-star.
Yes, that definitely, yes.
And so,
definitely comes into play.
I got 5 guys over here, and they're talking about player X. I better start talking about player X. I don't want to look stupid.
But the Jazz draft picks, and it is early, but right now, it largely looks like guys were picked in the right area, or they passed over guys in that area and got the right guy, even if he was projected lower. I have to go back and look at all the draft projections for all these guys.
Well, but once you get into the 20s, did you get a player who can play?
Right. I was talking more Cody and Taylor.
Okay,
they
Williams,
largely went.
It's still undecided. Hendricks, yes, because they traded for him. Not individually based on his own play. He missed a whole freaking season, and I don't know what he's going to develop into, and good luck on him. Maybe he will, but it doesn't matter anymore. You use that as a weapon and an asset to get Jaren Jackson.
Where it matters is if it gives you confidence in the trust in the whole group project that a draft is. All the scouts, all the cross-checking, all the interviews. Hey,
sure,
we got that right.
You have to go what you think.
Yep.
You get that information, but they're not the ones ultimately responsible for the pick. You are. And I trust this management team understanding and recognizing that they're going to miss from time to time, but they cannot miss this year.
DJ PK, when we come back, the spring football tour takes us to Baylor. That means David Smoak. We'll need at least 2 or 3 questions to get all the way through this interview. Stay tuned. The host of The Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas, is back with us next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined now by David Smoak, the host of The Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. David, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us once again.
All right, I heard you guys. I heard your comment. Always great to be with you. What a powerful station. Great coverage. You might get in 2 or 3 questions with me. I know what that means. I get it. You when you have a talk show host as a guest, like if you guys came on with us, it's kind of I'm ready to go, buddy. It's always great to see you both. Good.
If you get bothered by a TV guy in Houston, that was my fault. I've given him your contact info, and I've given him this concept. I don't know if the station will want to do it or not, but I said, if you do this kind of spring football tour stuff, you got to talk to David Smoak in Baylor because he's got energy and knowledge about Baylor football forever. So, I just volunteered away some of your time because you're good at what you do, David.
I appreciate it. You guys are too, man. It's great to even be talking about it. It means we're through spring drills and getting closer. We'll see everybody in Frisco in a couple of months.
Yeah, for sure. And, our market goes nuts on college football, which is great for me, great for us because we love the sport for sure. And we got 2 very good teams. We got Bronco Mendenhall up north. And then Weber State hired a local high school coach that we're all close with. And so we want to see what he could do at the Big Sky level. We're intrigued by that. And he's a disciple of Mike Leach's offense because Mike Leach has a connection or had a connection to Utah and helped teach the offense to the guys. So, college football, we're going to up to our eyeballs and bring it on. We're excited for it. As far as Baylor goes, they get the quarterback, DJ Lagway, over as a transfer. And can I make the argument that as he goes this season determines whether Dave Aranda is the coach at Baylor next season?
Yeah, absolutely. No question. They brought him in. Obviously, things didn't work out all that well at Florida. He had maybe a handful of decent moments. He was also, at times, he just never was really 100%. But that's not an excuse. That's part of playing college football. And it was a big deal. I don't know where this program, even though they got some really good young quarterbacks they feel good about, I don't know who would have been next option, because they basically said, okay, take all of your eggs and let's put it in this basket. Now, Jake Spavital, offensive coordinator, they had a couple of, options to go to. But with DJ's father, a former Baylor player, Willis High School, just around he's down in the Houston area, but no question. I remember speaking with him. I had an interview with him back in late February before spring started, and a couple of things that came out. One, he's very transparent. He's also, I think, more comfortable here. Not that, again, Florida's I haven't been lately, but a great program. But also, he did say that he's probably healthier now than he has been since he was in high school. And there was concerns about his shoulder in the first few throws in the first practice. You're like, But no, guys, no question. They had to bring in receivers. They had to bring in offensive linemen. But the bottom line is all of this revolves around, can they protect him and can he be productive? He's got a gun. He can throw it. Now, can they protect him and can he at least give this team a big adrenaline push?
Baylor has been up and down, to be sure, over the last, you can go back 10 or 20 years, right? PK actually just compared it to Arizona State the other day, man. There's some years you can point at and say, wow, that was a really good year. But then you look for them to follow it up, and they don't do it. And I read this one sentence, and I thought, I absolutely have to run this by you. Sikkim 365. Baylor found itself in a really tough position this offseason with the lack of resources committed by boosters due to the hot seat Dave Aranda is on. Elsewhere in the story, they're basically saying they're in the bottom half of the Big 12 NIL because people don't believe in the coach and don't want to write checks right now. Are people holding cash back, and is that going to cripple Aranda's efforts here?
I don't think they have enough. I think, let's put it this way. I think they have just enough to be able to put together the roster and bring a few people in. They don't have the kind of NIL, for example, that men's basketball has. They have more, but they don't have that kind of excitement, even though Scott Drew the last couple of years they've struggled because they recently won a national championship. And Scott is great at recruiting not only players but also those who can help with NIL. Just had a golf tournament around the corner about a week ago, raised over $1 million just for that, which really, guys, let's put that in perspective. That might be one player for 1 year. Who knows?
Right.
As far as basketball, it might even be like a bench player. But no, yeah, you're right. I don't know if it's a lack of trust. It's kind of been a malaise. I had a conversation with Dave about a month ago in his office. No camera, no microphone, just sitting there talking about the system and where they are. And they're not in the mode where they have much more than what you have with the House settlement. Whatever that is for them, 17, 18 million. Of course, I know it's 20.5. Men's basketball gets about 3 or 4 million of that too. I think they were hoping when they changed ADs, when Doug McNamee came in, he's a really good fundraiser, but I don't think they've been able to get where they need to go. I asked this question when Doug arrived. Does Baylor have enough young, what I call bangers, guys who have a little bit of that ego, who are also wanting their names in the headlines and want to be like, and I'm not trying to say there's a bunch of Cody Campbells, because Cody Campbell really doesn't have much of an ego if you've ever met him and talked to him. He just has a bunch of money, and so does Tech. Baylor's not in that position. They've got a lot of old donors, and I mean old, I'm 67, that have put out millions of dollars on a lot of facilities and in some cases other things as well at Baylor. But, they're kind of now to a point where they're starting to protect what they have for whoever's next in the family. Baylor's trying to scratch out maybe 5, 6, 8 of the young donors, whether attorneys, investment, or just guys that own a bunch of things. But right now, I would say at most they're in the middle of the pack in the Big 12 when it comes to how much they can spend, especially in football. and probably a few people are not writing checks until they see. Because I think everybody, had Mac Rhodes not gone through the drama he did, had he not been fired, Dave Aranda's gone. I know that. I know that. He's gone. And everybody likes Dave. Great guy, but you got to win. But if Mac Rhodes had not been fired or been in the position where he had to be fired, then there's no question that Dave Aranda would have been gone. And so that probably kicked the can down just a little bit down the road, so to speak, when people want to say, okay, we need to get behind whoever's the next head coach.
You talk about that offensive line, and I'm reading that they've got one starter at right tackle, Siraki, I think it may be how you pronounce his name, Caden, and they took some hits in the transfer portal there. What do they have to replace the guys that they lost?
Guys, I got to really be honest with you that they brought in, like, for example, one of the young men, Kibble. He was at Texas, recruited by Texas, and of course, if you're recruited by Texas, you're probably either really pretty good or you're overmodulated as far as what people think. Let's be honest, that's true. They did bring in 4 or 5 offensive linemen, maybe even 6, through the transfer portal. They had to. But, yeah, Siraki has a brother, Colton, and Caden are both the ones that you're talking about. Caden's the right tackle. One of the issues last year, because Sawyer Robertson was good. He wasn't as good as he was the year before. He didn't run as much. He wasn't as explosive. They couldn't protect him anyway. And both lines, offense and defensive lines, were just not. They were at most, at best, on their best day, average. So they had to go into the portal and do that on both offensive and defensive line. I think they have a new offensive line coach. I think they feel good about who they have. But, again, I'm not going to get into – I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, my God, he's from here and he's here and he's here. You don't know anymore with the portal. Guy could be from San Jose State and be really good, or UAB and be really good, and the guy from maybe who was at Oklahoma transfers in, or Texas. We don't know that anymore because of the way the transfer portal is so fluid. I don't know who they are. I do know they have some young players that they feel like can come up through the system, including a couple of true freshmen. But let's be honest, you're going up against 20, 21, 23, 4-year-old guys. And so it's going to be a challenge for them. It is going to be a challenge for them. Doesn't mean they're not busting it, but it's going to be a challenge for them to get themselves into a bowl game.
They bring Joe Klanderman in from Kansas State as a new defensive coordinator, and maybe K-State's defenses weren't – they've been pretty good, but they haven't been great. But maybe that's last year maybe that was an NIL issue at Kansas State. How is Klanderman going to change this? And I thought Aranda was a defensive guy, so how much freedom does he get to change this?
Have you guys ever seen that meme with Will Smith in a big house, mansion,
He's
downstairs
alone
in the living room, and there's nobody else there?
Yeah.
Right.
I use that example. It's because Dave Aranda has not been afraid of changing coordinators or otherwise. Spavital's been in, and he's been pretty solid when he's been really good the last, 3 years. But Dave Roberts left, the defensive coordinator. They've been through other guys as well. Klanderman, we had a chance to speak with him. Klanderman is taking over complete control of the defense. And you're right, Aranda's supposed to be the defensive, genius, right? Guru, the Jedi when he was LSU, Wisconsin, Utah State, et cetera. And he is. He knows his defense. When people, even coaches say when he gets in front of a film or in front of a class or a clinic, he's just like, you're in awe. But he needs to get everything in front of him. He doesn't need to be worried about. Doesn't mean he's not going to give Klanderman some advice or look at some game plans or look at some film. He will. But he has to get involved in every inch of this program, from punting, kicking, coverage, all that. And he didn't have a choice. He's pretty much told, this is what you're going to do. You're going to let other people make decisions. Spavital handles that. Klanderman comes in pretty good. Of course, K-State last year was a mess. Opened up with that loss at Iowa State and Dublin, and they just never got going. And Kleiman, of course, was going through a lot of things, questioning the way football is run these days or college athletics, and he wasn't quite in it. He even admitted he's worn out. So I don't know how much that would go on Klanderman. But Klanderman, I saw somebody make a comment again on Twitter about some of the biggest storylines in the Big 12, and one of them is how Dave Aranda's defense at Baylor goes, so goes Dave Aranda. It's not his defense. He will have input, but he's not going to be calling the coverages. He's not going to be calling the scheme. In fact, Klanderman is going to make this scheme a little bit more, user-friendly by being able to mix a few things up. And listen, try what you can. Now, you still have to have the dudes all over the place to do it. But Klanderman, I think, may be a breath of fresh air for some of the returning players. And he also was able to help with a few transfers in as well. Aranda is not going to be in charge of the defense, even if they start 3-0 or they start 0-3. And 3-0 is going to be tough, but with Auburn in the first game. But I do think that Klanderman, from what I've been told and what I've been told by more than just Dave Aranda, is that Klanderman has the keys to the car on the defensive side of the football.
There's a stat that's pretty wild, and we'll see how it goes this year. Last year, Baylor, when they went 5-7, and they were 0-7 when they allowed more than 165 yards rushing, and then they were 5-0 when they gave up fewer than that. And so the run defense was okay at times, but not nearly good enough, and there was a big difference there. And I know they got some transfers, and like you said, I can read their names and where they're from, but who knows how they're going to be. What are you thinking?
There's a couple of guys that interest me, but they lost their best linebacker, Keaton Thomas. He should have gone. He was going to get a lot more money, and he's a hell of a player. He had a good supply and demand. Their entire front defensive line, 5 of the first 6 guys, at least from if you look at sometime either in the middle or at the end of spring drills, they're all transferred. They all are. There's one player, Jose Wheeler, who was at Indiana. So that tweaked my interest. And I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I haven't checked. But the last I remember, he had not yet been cleared. Now, we're 2.5 months away from camp starting. So he could play. Now, he could play, a senior from Indiana. But I don't know if he has yet been cleared, and that might be one of those bang-bang decisions sometime in August. They have a couple of guys who were hurt. Turner, the cornerback who was at Northwestern, who got injured last year, he's going to help them. At safety, he can play. But he didn't play last year because, again, he was hurt. So that always helps. Not just those you transfer in, but those who did not play last year. I'm not talking freshmen or those players, but guys that were transfers that didn't play for injury reasons. Here's one thing I know. Now, don't laugh. They have a hellacious group of special teams. They really do. They had a kicker, punter, all of that. Now, can they go coverage? So that's one. What I always have said, if you're a 5-7 team, but you're really good on special teams, you can block a punt, kick field goals pretty consistently, maybe even have really good plus-minus kick coverage, lost yardage, you can win 7-5. If you're 9-3 and you have really good special teams, you might be better than that. But you have to have one of those, and I think that does help. Now, that's, again, they're on the field very rarely. The punt team was on the field a lot last year, and so was the kick return team. But I do think that they have some pieces together, but they have so many new faces, and it's just so hard. It's so hard to know. Okay, that's great. For example, wide receiver Draylon Miller from Colorado. He's from near DJ, where he played high school football. The young man that came in from Florida, another wide receiver. They're supposed to be pretty talented. They went to Colorado, went to Florida. They have a young man named Lewis Brown, a receiver who's a transfer, senior, big, tall, lanky body that might give them a little oomph. They don't have Bryson Washington, who 2 years ago, guys, remember, was an All-American freshman running back, and now he's gone. They do have Dawson Pendergrass, who's just kind of a plow horse that might give them a little bit of personality, and 2 good young running backs. I know I'm not, you know me, I'm going to tell you, I don't know who they are. I'm not going to, buy into that spring hype. I don't know who they are. I do know this. They're going to have very few injuries. It's an attrition game, and they're going to have to find a way. Someone that you don't know who's on the roster is going to have to be a lot better, maybe 5 players, than you think they are for this team to have a chance to get to a bowl game. I'm not trying to do doom and gloom. That's not. I don't care. I don't lose any sleep whether they're 7-5, 5-7, 12-2, and 21 was amazing. They were fantastic. but they've never followed up on that year. They've never taken advantage of that year back when NIL and transfer portal started, and they're paying for that even now 2 or 3 years down the road.
Before we let you go, then, where is the bar for Aranda to keep his job? Bowl eligibility, is that enough? Has it got to be a winning record? Are they going to make him win 8 games? You know, new AD, is he showing his cards at all?
Great question. I've always been, you got to walk before you jog, you got to jog before you run, and that's what it was like back when early years of Art Briles, because they had gone forever, guys, without being in a bowl game, like 16 or 17 years. And they did that. I don't think Dave Aranda has that ability to be that methodical or that. I think they're going to – here's my deal. I have not talked to really off the record with Doug McNamee about this, but to me, 7-5 is the absolute minimum. I don't care even if, like, DJ was to go down. Hopefully that didn't happen for his sake. But if 7-5 and then there's going to have to be a game or two in that 7-win total that's against somebody in the top third of the Big 12 conference or maybe even an Auburn, you're going to have to not just win 7, become bowl eligible. You're going to have a couple of games that show signs that you can play with the top third of the Big 12, which is what they used to do year in and year out for quite some time.
David, we enjoyed it as always. Thanks for bringing all the knowledge, the passion, and the energy.
You guys are great. Keep it up. Thank you very much, and have a great, great week.
There's David Smoak, host of The Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. PK, this is not the first time or the last time we've said this. If they're going to do this, they better start fast. They got the neutral game with Auburn on a neutral field to start, and then 4 of the next 5 are at home. And their closing stretch in November at BYU, home to Texas Tech, at Houston the last 3. They better get where they need to get in those first 9 games, because that's some heavy lifting down the stretch.
Yeah, you want to take the pressure off. You want to be bowl eligible, obviously, as soon as possible. And I don't know when that's going to be or if that's going to be.
Right. All right, there's the spring football report on the Baylor Bears, who do not play Utah this year, but they are at BYU November 14th. All right, DJ and PK, Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, 9 o'clock. What could, should, and will the Jazz do with that draft pick? We'll talk NBA playoffs with him as well. That's at 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoq.
The Jazz selecting number 2 in the upcoming NBA draft. So, if there's one thing that scares me, AJ's the safer pick. And that's what makes me nervous, is that Washington is going to be like, okay, we've really swung and missed, and we've really done some problems. So let's go the safest superstar available in AJ and let somebody else take the risk on Darren. If I'm the Jazz, then I take that risk on Darren Peterson. But I exhaust every option available to me to get AJ.
I encourage everybody to go back and you do watch pre-Kansas film on Darren Peters. I want you to watch his handle, specifically how he navigates ball screens. He can become a better passer, but he's not bad as a secondary playmaker. You just look at him, it's his frame. To me, there are real reasons why this guy can be great.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number. To a good life's sleep.
Hey, it's your ceiling vent, so I'm dripping. Could be the rain, could be the upstairs bathroom. Yikes. You could hire the guy your neighbor recommended, but I'm pretty sure that's just his cousin. Do we know if he's licensed, or does he just own a ladder?
Listen to your home. Go with Thumbtack. Upload a photo or voice note and we'll diagnose your project and match you with the right pro for the job. Thumbtack. We know homes. Hire the right pro today.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. 2 games in the books in the Western Conference Finals. You want to, after having watched these 2 games, you want to say anything for sure right now, other than I thought it was going to be a long series, and it looks like it's going to be a long series.
Well, the thing that I was impressed with these Thunder is he came out far more aggressively, far more emotional. Holmgren, who was a complete and total non-factor relative to his skill level in Game 1, you could see, okay, that's not going to happen again. And that's fine. Things happen. But, like, he had a little fake along the baseline and went and dunked it and got fouled. And, you would have thought it was the game-clinching basket in the Game 7 of the finals. But that's okay. I want to see more emotion. I want to see more passion. Don't be passive. Now, you just can't be emotional. You got to be good, too. And their two best players, obviously SGA being the other, played substantially better. And they're going to go as far as those two take them. They've got some very nice role players. Caruso had another good game. I get that. But I can make the case, okay, he had a great game in Game 1. They still lost because you need SGA and you need Holmgren to do his thing. And I thought Hartenstein, as they call him back there, he asserted himself. Push him. Push Wembanyama. Mess him up. Rough him up. If they call it, then adjust. But if they don't call it, try to knock him off this game. That's part of the deal. And, you may be getting close to the line of the rules, but so what? That's up to the referees to enforce the rules, not you. And so I just like the way they play. They're a lot more aggressive. Now, they did not blow them out. It seemed like every time they were two things that I liked about that, the aggressiveness, and every time they seemed like they were about ready to knock out the Spurs got it back into a possession or two, and then the Thunder got some more breathing room, so they kept answering. It was a boxing match in a sense.
It went from 3 to 11 so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, they're up 10 again. Oh, they're only up 4. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so I like that. And they got threatened multiple times, and you could argue, well, San Antonio, me, I don't buy the house money, but the mission was to get a game in Oklahoma. You needed to get a game in order to win the series. They did that. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win, but mindset-wise, they had a little bit of an advantage there. Could be a little looser because the pressure clearly was on the Thunder, and they answered the call. And so I'm expecting, like I did with Cleveland and Detroit, flip a coin. See who's playing better on each individual game, and that's probably going to determine the winner. And if you play well or better than the opponent 4 times, you win.
I thought it was really good that Oklahoma City went away from that. Hey, let's put a little – Wemby's bigger than everybody, so let's put a little guy on him and then have our other bigs match up and make these other guys play against bigger players. And I also thought the way they deployed the two big guys, as you like to say, is he's just so – reminds me of Steven Adams, just big, thick, physical guy. And so lean into that with Wemby a little bit and beat him up. Now, in the next game, it may not work as well. Wemby only got to shoot 2 free throws. And I think he had 3 field goals in the paint instead of 10. So it definitely worked. And I thought the fact that they got Holmgren on the floor when Wemby sat, that allowed Holmgren to use his size, length, athletic ability, attack the hoop, get dunks, whatever, when Wemby was out of the game. Make use of those, 9 minutes he sat. And they did. I thought that was good. That was savvy. I am curious, is Caruso just going to have an awesome series? Because you're coming off the bench, you think, okay, he has, 2 great games, 2 pretty good games, but maybe a couple of clunkers, in a 6-game series. Wow. The overall numbers weren't as good, but they were getting shots for Holmgren and Hartenstein that they weren't getting in the first game. Caruso scored 17 points on only 7 shots. Well done. Very efficient. When you got your opportunities, you took them.
He's a trusted player.
Yes, 100%.
And those types of guys are valuable. They're not stars, but every team needs them.
Right.
You can go down the list, whether whoever it might be from way back when. I guess they say John Havlicek was the 6th man back in the 60s, a little bit before I can remember, but I've certainly read up on it. And you need those types of players. And Daigneault can trust Caruso, and there's something to be said for that. And so right now, the series literally is even. And I also think, in my mind, going forward, it still is even. Who's going to win? Don't know.
And if it's even after 2 games in San Antonio, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to who is playing better on a given night, and you've got to play better than 4 times. I feel like Cleveland it was a devastating loss in the manner in which it was accomplished for New York. But it's one of those things where I can remember talking in the locker room, and the Jazz had a comeback. It was in the 90s, and I don't even remember who they were playing. And it was improbable that they came back, but they did, and they won the game. And talking to the guys afterward, it's like everything had to go right for you, and everything had to go wrong for the other guy. And sometimes that happens. And so if I'm Cleveland, that's the way I'm approaching that game. Well, I got to put it behind me, but I don't think it has the potential to be devastating. And who was it? Roy McIlroy. Didn't he? You can look this up if I think I'm right. His Masters years ago when he was a younger kid, he blows up and shoots like an 80. And, it's going to be such ramification and blah, blah, blah. And then I think he went out and won the U.S. Open. The very next thing.
Just shake it off.
Because they didn't have the PGA in between then.
Yeah, so he had 2 months.
Yeah.
But the point is, sometimes stuff happens and people shake it off.
Right.
And sometimes stuff happens and it impacts them for a long time. And we all try to predict when something happens like that, how it's going to play out, but we don't really know. And he shook it off.
Right. And so I'm not going to be burying Cleveland by any stretch because they were right there. They played so well for so long, and then things went against them and things went for the Knicks. All right, way to go, Knicks. But asking Shamet to hit 2 big threes again and one that bounces around multiple times, I don't know that he can do that. So I'm not so worried about the Cavs psychologically because I don't think there's a big difference there between these two teams. They got to get a handle on Brunson. Brunson is the most improbable good to great small player in league history since Tiny Archibald.
So you're jumping over, and I'm just going to list all the 6-foot guards out there.
Well, not that many. Isaiah and Stockton.
Steve Nash.
I think Steve Nash was a tad bit bigger.
He might have been 6'2".
Yeah. But you can put him in there. But Nash never did any, and same thing with Stockton.
Gary Payton.
Payton was about 6'4", I think, and he's a ball hawk. But Brunson shouldn't be doing the things that he's doing. But yet he does them, and it's amazing. Good on the young man to watch him play. Undersized. I think being left-handed helps him. But the thing about being undersized, you always hear of these guys, he grew 7 inches between his junior and senior year. Mm-hmm. Well, the short guys, they don't do that.
No.
So he's always been undersized, and he was undersized in high school, and he probably had to be crafty in high school. And when he went to Villanova, he had to be crafty. And then he faced long odds in the NBA. So he's always had to do these things. In order for him to be successful, he had to use all these shake and bakes and moves and fakes and all these types of things to get himself into position. So he's probably practiced those things 1,000 times, if not 20,000 times. And so this is his lot in life, and it's the way he's going to be successful. And good on Thibodeau did it last year, and now Mike Brown allowing him and his teammates, as Dave Rose once said when I was complimenting Jimmer, Dave went right to his teammates because they allowed Jimmer to be Jimmer, not just the coaches, but the players. And the players have to do that too, because sometimes guys get in the way and wait a second, I want my shots and blah, blah, blah. But they've got to get a handle from the Cleveland defensive perspective on Brunson. He cannot be able to just do what he wants out there. And clearly in the fourth quarter, he did what he wanted.
Muggsy Bogues and Spud Webb.
I don't think they were that good.
They weren't. They're much shorter also.
Yes, and way to go, guys. I mean, you defied the odds big time.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were all-stars. Brunson is an all-star. You can make the case that the Knicks go as he goes.
You can make that case.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, and series are about adjustments, and you got to try different things. And Oklahoma City tried something in game 1, and it didn't work, and we were all scratching our heads by the middle of the second quarter. And they stuck with it, but then they went away from it. And they're like, okay, that didn't work, and now they tried something different, and Wembanyama had a very good game. But for them to win the series, does he have to be awesome 4 times?
Well, it's hard.
Right.
To reproduce what he did game 1.
This is no way you expect another 40-20 game. And he goes 21 points on 50% shooting, 17 boards, 6 assists, 4 blocks. I mean, he had a very good game, but it wasn't enough.
That will get you in the hall. He
needs, for San Antonio to win right now, when they're missing Fox, when Harper's hurt, when Castle's turned it over 9 times. This is the whole youth thing about San Antonio. Castle might be, different in 2 or 3 years when he's played more playoff games, and maybe he won't be in this role if other guys are healthy. They try somebody else in that role, but right now they're a little limited. I'm curious now, how do the Cavs adjust? Leaving Harden on Brunson didn't work. All right, try something else. What Oklahoma City tried in game 1 didn't work. They tried something else. It worked better in game 2. So series are about adjustments. What are they going to do?
I think that the Spurs are not a well-constructed team just yet. And what I mean by that is they've got Big Vic and then about 10 other guys to see to do the same thing. Now, they're good.
They're also the same age. And Pat Riley said a long time ago, you need 1/3 young, 1/3 prime, 1/3 older guys. They've got a lot of guys who are young, and you're right. There's a certain, because they didn't draft for need, and because they were drafting high, and they drafted the best player, there's a little skill set overlap. And maybe they wouldn't have.
They're all the same player.
Maybe they wouldn't have acquired Fox if they knew who they were going to draft in the next couple of drafts. But of course, you can't know that, so it worked out the way it did.
If they were playing a 6-6 and under league, they'd dominate.
Well, except they wouldn't get to use Wemby.
Right, but it seems like every one of those guys outside of Big Vic and the backup Cornette dude, but he's just a spot player. It seemed like they're all the same guys. They all got the same skill set. Yeah. They all do the same thing. And, it'll be interesting to see going forward if they make some moves there. I mean, you can go look at their roster, 6'5", 6'6",
Teams
6'5".
don't tend to stand pat, so I do think, to your point, that we'll see different sizes, different skill sets, and different experience levels, because they're playing a lot of really young guys. It's impressive they've gotten this far as young as the team is, and part of that is because Wembayama can just be unreal. Even in the 21 point, 17 rebound game, which we're treating that like it's not a big deal, where if a guy here did it, we'd be going nuts. But because he just went 40-20, it doesn't seem as spectacular. When he missed that shot and then immediately hit the floor and went back up and grabbed it and dunked it, and a couple possessions later missed a shot and went to the other side of the rim and tipped it in, and it's just not normal. There's nothing about that as normal. Those are 2 outstanding plays.
I mean, I don't understand why they're not playing Bismarck Biyombo more.
No, just stop with that.
The Montana kid. Right? Or how about Kelly O? Put KO in there,
Clinic, former Jazz man.
Yeah, he don't play.
He's over there high-fiving guys at timeouts.
Yeah, and good for him, man. He stayed in the league for a long time on being a good dude.
35 years old now.
Yeah.
So you stay in the NBA more than 10 years, we are impressed. We've always said that. At 35, he's clearly well past
But he's not playing. But you just look at all the guys, and they don't play Harrison Barnes that much either. But Carter Bryant, they play 6'6". Castle, 6'6". The guy I call Champagne, 6'7". Fox, not playing right now, 6'3". Harper, 6'5". And then Keldon Johnson, 6'5". They're all clones of one another. Yep. So they got one big player and a bunch of guards.
But if they find a 6'9" or 6'10" guy who can shoot, and maybe using Olynyk's money because he's a free agent, he's making $13 million, but this is the last year of his deal. Maybe that roster spot and that money.
Yeah,
someone his size who's younger.
Changes.
Yeah. But there is something to be said, positionless basketball, a bunch of interchangeable 6'6" guys.
Right, but I still think that's a hard way to go about it. Now, when Biyombo makes the thing work to the level that they've been able to make it work, because he's all that.
Yeah, and he's 22, and Harper's 20, and Castle's 21, and they're playing a lot of young guys. Vassal's only 25.
And
Champagne is
24.
6'5". Yeah, so these are a whole lot of guys. Like usually you get to your prime, you're 27 years old. But
Julian Champagne is 24?
Yeah, he's 24. So
how do you say his last name?
I think it's
Champagne.
Champagne, yes. Thank you.
I just call him Champagne.
I do like the Champagne name. That's fun.
They hope to be toasting here in 3 or 4 weeks.
They've got a lot of older guys who are in the last year of the deal. So
they sit the bench.
They do. So that makes me think, to your point, there's going to be a lot of roster spots available. There's going to be change. Maybe they bring 1 or 2 of them back. We'll see. But Harrison Barnes is 33 and a free agent.
He is.
The Clinic is 35 years old, free agent. McLaughlin is 30 and a free agent.
The Clinic?
It's
Jake Scott.
That's
nickname.
Jake Scott, K. Olenek.
Great. And both you guys have never been to the Clinic.
Biombo is 33 and
I've
Plumlee
been to
is
the
36.
Clinic.
The Clinic.
Yeah.
Which clinic?
The health clinic where you don't have much money.
I've been to the clinic.
To interview people?
No, to get treated.
For what?
When I tore my ACL. And it was a bad experience, and I didn't go back.
Right. Well, you were a kid, not an adult.
Well, I was an adult, but
no, you weren't.
I was a youthful adult. I was in my 20s.
Right. You weren't even out of college.
I was out of college.
Your lifestyle was not out of college.
Grief, man. Anyway, to the point I was trying to make, they got 5 guys in their 30s who are free agents. They could let any or all of them go. It'll free up a bunch of money, probably close to $40 million. So to your point, you'll probably be sitting here next year saying, well, the Spurs didn't have player X a year ago, but they're going to have $40 million coming off the books. And they're going to have roster spots, and this team will look different. And all these guys who are 20, 21, 22 years old will have another year in the playoffs under the belt. The only question is, will they be the defending champs or not?
No. And the Jazz will beat him in the second round. Mark my words.
Mark my words. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. If you're just joining us now, the question of the day, very intriguing, a lot of good answers. It's on our Facebook page. You can read through the comments. I know sometimes it's kind of a waste of time, but I actually thought there was, I have a friend who likes to say, there's some meat on the bone. Man, Thanksgiving must be full combat at his house. But I thought there were some really good answers. Should the Jazz give a serious look at Cam Boozer? We had people saying, hey, you know, don't get too crazy or don't stray too far away from, the general consensus here that we're seeing. And then we had people, we had one guy specifically just list, here's the problem with general consensus in the past. And listed a bunch of drafts where people went number 2 and there were Hall of Famers on the board that should have been chosen instead. We've also had people saying that the track record's pretty good and that Jazz should trust their research, their instinct, and their knowledge. Tony says they can take a good look at Boozer. Peterson or AJ is who we need. Tony has already definitively figured it out. And maybe that's what all their research will tell them. That when they do take a good look, they'll decide he's the 3rd prospect and we're not reaching with the number 2 pick. You did bring up the interesting thought of, okay, is there somebody, especially Memphis or Chicago, who wants to trade up? Because if they think the second best player in the draft is slotted 4th or 5th, maybe moving down to 3 or 4, you get who you want and you get some extra assets to continue the rebuild with. Obviously, that doesn't happen often, but obviously Danny Ainge did do it once and it worked.
That's 2 obviously's right there.
I think you know both of these things, but recapping for people who don't. So, yes, I think it was obvious. I don't think I surprised you with either one of those little tidbits.
Obviously.
3. Yeah, get in on this game. It's fun. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass.
Obviously, I don't want him involved.
Yeah. You beat me to it, man.
All sorts of options are available.
Obviously.
And with that in mind, they may do something that is not
obvious.
The apparent obvious move.
Okay.
Maybe something that is a little surprising. Now, obviously, I don't expect them to do that right now, but we're still in the early process. It's not getting late early yet. We still have, give me another, at least get to June. We're not to June yet. We still got over a week to go before we get to June, before you may have a better concept of what other teams are asking for, because I wonder, it's a negotiation process, and what you're willing to give, too, from that perspective, not just what other teams are asking, but what you're willing to give, whether it is for Washington or whether it is for a deal that allows a team to move ahead of you. And I think you do go with what you have to trust your instinct. There's no way you're going to make a pick thinking, oh my gosh, this is not the right pick. You're going to go into it with full confidence after having done complete amounts of research to figure out XYZ, whatever that is, right? And then away you go. And it very well could be that they move down and get a player that they still love, not just like, but literally love, and can get an asset or two in addition. There's nothing wrong with that if you think it's the right thing.
Josh says Cam Boozer has talent worth considering. Yes, but given that they're going to be paying their front court $125+ million a year by the end of the summer with absolutely no intention of trading them anytime soon, they should not draft Boozer. He goes on. Okay, first off, it's $100 million, not $125, and no intention of trading him. If you said
trading
right
who?
Now, the front court.
Oh, them. Either any
I
of them.
assume he means, he doesn't say, but I assume he means Markkanen and Jackson. And I would say in the next 2 years, I would say it's more likely than not that one of those two is traded before opening day of 29.
Okay, but I think it is $125 million because I think he's including what you're going to have to pay Kessler.
Oh, okay, yeah. If it is three guys, you're right. And he probably is. That's my bet.
And that's probably the round
so
number.
So Josh is probably going 125 plus because he's throwing Kessler's money in there. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Yes. Stand corrected,
Well,
Josh.
but
I do think that one of those two guys that's on $50 million is probably going to be moved in a couple of years, so you don't pass on Cam Boozer if you think he's the guy.
Exactly. That gives you insurance to potentially lose one of these dudes and still have proficiency at that position in the front court.
And even in the next 2 years, look what's happened in the Western Conference Finals. There's 4 guys hurt right now. And also, you need 4 guys to rotate through 3 possessions. I mean, these guys aren't playing 48 minutes. And Jackson can play a couple of positions. Obviously, you got to be careful when you play him at the 5. Markkanen can play a couple positions. So if Boozer's the guy, I am not worried about the 3 guys on the roster. I read that as 2, but you're right. It's probably 3. But I'm not worried about those 3 guys on the roster. I add Boozer to the mix, and you're drafting him for a decade. You're not drafting him for the next 2 to 3 years. These guys are under contract for 3, and I'm just not convinced they're going to be here at the end of their deals.
Well, and plus you could get some good talent in return.
Yes.
For...
Absolutely.
Probably any or all.
All 3 of those guys have value.
Yeah.
Especially the guys with the bigger contracts as they get near the end of the contract. Or people who are looking for salary relief, and absolutely.
That's what's cool about it is the Jazz have set themselves up to have options. Now, options are just simply that until they become assets. So I don't know that they're going to be assets. I have anticipation and confidence that they will be, but they can go in a lot of different ways. And so I'm not so worried about them, they're going to be capped out. Because we've seen so many teams be capped out until they're not capped out because they make the moves to get the flexibility. And the Jazz just did that 4 years ago.
5 to 10 years ago, I was totally in that. And I thought there were untradeable contracts. And some of the players on those contracts have been traded multiple times. Chris Paul was making a lot of money. James Harden was making a lot of money. Kevin Durant was making a lot of money. They've all moved multiple times. So there was a time where I thought, well, you just can't get off that contract. Now you're stuck. No, you can. We've seen it.
Right.
It's a fact.
Right.
All right, DJ and PK. Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, joins us right after the break. Stay with us.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. We welcome Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, back to the show. Andy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. We gave you a little time, Andy. A little time to digest the draft lottery results. We know you keep an eye on the Jazz, even though you write about the entire NBA. Got some ties to this part of the world. And I'm curious, now that you've thought about it, heard about it, maybe talked to people about it, what should the Jazz do, and what do you think they will do?
I think those two are going to be the same answer, and I think they're probably going to stay at number 2. I guess it would depend on what Washington asks for, but based on, and I guess this isn't much to base an opinion on, but like the fake trades that you see from media outlets, seems like it's too big of an ask from Washington to move up. If they really are insisting on like the number 2 and a future first and Ace Bailey, if I was the Jazz, and I would assume the Angels would see this the same way, I would assume they would just stick at number 2. Because in this draft, I think you have a chance at a superstar, whether you're at 1 or 2. So I don't know why you would give up Ace Bailey in this situation, or even some of the scenarios that I've seen that are slightly less than that ask. I would still probably stick at number 2. I'm sure there's a lot of people in and around Utah who have their heart set on Dybantsa. But there's not even a guarantee he's going to go number 1. I think there's a real chance that Washington takes Peterson. And I think if you end up with either one of those guys, you're probably fine. And now there's this recent buzz that maybe Utah would like Boozer there too, and there's certainly a numbers argument to take him. So if Utah has wanted to move up for so long, and maybe there was a slight sting in not getting number 1 the night of the lottery, but of all the years to get number 2, this is probably the best one.
With that in mind, basically then there's nothing that the Jazz need to do is what you're saying, because of all the years to get number 2. This is plenty good enough. So what I'm hearing from you is they really don't need to do anything. Whichever kid they get will be fine, and they'll be ready to play ball when October rolls around.
Yeah, I think need is a great word to plug in here. They can be very content to stick at number 2 and probably or maybe potentially get a superstar there. The other thing that I was just thinking of, and there's a track record of this with Danny Ainge, maybe they even trade down a spot.
Yeah.
Like if Memphis is desperate to get one of those 2 guys, Dybantsa or Peterson, and Utah really likes Boozer, maybe you get some assets out of this. And you still end up with potentially the best player of the group. I think there's still a chance that happens with Boozer. In my mind, and I'm not a draft expert, in terms of safety of the picks, it might go Dybantsa, Boozer, Peterson to me. Upside, it might go Peterson, Dybantsa, Boozer. I'm sure you ask 10 different people, you might get 10 different orders on that. So again, it's a good year to be number 2 because at least right now, it kind of looks like you can't really go wrong anyway.
You've been doing this long enough, and you've poured over past drafts. You know there is not a draft out there where the best player went number 1, the second best player went number 2, and the third best player went number 3. It never happens that way. You would always redraft it looking at pick 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, or 16. So if they really throw everything out the window, and if they don't care what anybody says on draft night, and they just think, hey, this is going to be like draft whatever, and the guy who's projected at 6 or 8 or whatever is really the guy, we're going to do it, whether that's trading down or taking him at 2. Who would that be? Is that like Acuff has been projected anywhere from 5 to 7 or 8. Wagler from Illinois is in that same kind of range. And history says that one of those guys is going to be awesome and much better than the guys who are going to be taken in front of him if form holds. Who would it be, you think?
This isn't an answer to your exact question because I'm bumping up in the range a little bit.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, and odds are there is going to be somebody really good in that range. But to me, I'm cheating a little bit. If there was a guy that I think could kind of break consensus is Caleb Wilson. And I say I'm cheating because everybody has him at number 4, seemingly. But I wouldn't be shocked, just based on the video I've seen of this guy, the athleticism is pretty freakish. And that doesn't always translate to the right kind of skill development that you need and the right mentality. But I think he has a chance to be really, really special. I don't know if I would bet on it or feel good enough about it to skip out on those top 3 guys. I still think, like you said, is there a chance that Utah shocks everyone and takes somebody not in that consensus top 3 at number 2? I think there's a chance, but I would be pretty scared to do that in this particular draft. I would probably, unless Memphis offers a haul or the Wizards ask for less than people think they are, I would probably just stick at number 2. And if it's Dybantsa, great. If it's Peterson, great. And like I said, maybe you can even make an argument for Boozer. I'm not giving you guys a lot of concrete answers, but I think that's kind of the beauty of this draft is you can win in a lot of different ways here.
These players all have different levels of skill, right? And they all do something really good, and maybe there's not something that is as good, and you have a question mark. As far as the 3 players, because I think that if everything stays as is, then those will be in whatever order, 1, 2, 3, right? And maybe we'll be surprised, you don't know, but I think that's the way it would go. And so their particular skill sets and the knocks on them, Boozer not being athletic, Dybantsa not being a great shooter. Peterson, I'm wondering, do you look at him and the knock on him is just the durability and maybe he checks the boxes on all the other aspects of the game?
I think durability is one, and I know that they have, after the fact, concocted some stories about his lack of availability, but they don't fully pass the sniff test to me. And so there's still sort of a mentality or approach question for him with me. The creatine thing it just seemed like something that an agent cooked up months after the fact.
Sounds good. Let's go with that.
Yeah. So I don't that part of it scares me a little bit. His measurables and his skill set and his tough shot making ability are all very, very impressive. And I think he has superstar upside. I think all 3 of these guys have superstar upside, and I think Peterson might have the most. Over the history of the league, we have a few examples of these sort of archetypal shooting guards that can become the face of the league, like Jordan and Kobe, and now kind of SGA in that mold. And I think Peterson probably fits that the closest. So I really like him. I think that mentality thing might be the single biggest red flag of the 3, though.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's interesting.
And that's not to say that it's like terrifying to me. If he was available at number 2, I would take him because of that superstar upside. And he may be a guy who just fits NBA basketball better than college. And maybe an NBA training staff realizes, oh, this really was a cramping issue, and we know how to deal with it. It could all be fixable stuff, but you have to get real nitpicky with all 3 of these prospects. So if I say that's my single biggest red flag of the 3, it's still a pretty small flag.
Maybe a pennant, not a flag.
There you go. Yeah.
Boozer and Wilson at 6'8" and 6'9", it bugs a lot of fans because they feel like, well, they've already spent $50 million on Jackson and $50 million on Markkanen, and now they're about to spend, 25 or whatever the number turns out to be on Kessler, assuming that deal gets done. So they got their front line, so why would you draft these guys? Well, you need at least 5 guys to play through those 3 positions, and the 2 guys who are signed at $50 million are signed for 3 years, and there's a decent chance so they're flipped maybe after 2 years because you can't afford everything going forward, everybody at every price they want. So one is flipped. So I think that is 0 impact on this draft. If you think Boozer or Wilson is the best player available, then you take them. I think it will work out in the short run. There could be injuries also. And I think it'll definitely work out in the long run. So that wouldn't impact me at all. What do you think?
I think you are exactly right there. Generally speaking, if you're an NBA team approaching the draft, I think best player available should be priority number 1. I think it's pretty rare that a positional fit would trump best player available, and it certainly doesn't apply to Utah being as far away from contention as they've been the last few years. And you mentioned it in there in the question, there's the opportunity to trade. And so you take the best player available, and if he happens to be a big guy and he's ready to lead a team quicker than you realize, then maybe somebody like Markkanen or Triple J still has plenty of value around the league. You can loosen up a logjam in the front court, I think, pretty easily. And the way that the league is trending right now, this stuff can change on a dime. So, maybe it looks different in 4 or 5 years, but right now an abundance of size and strength and physicality is pretty important. And so if you can get a big guy who's also super athletic like Wilson, and I would even throw in Dybantsa into this because he's pretty large himself. He's probably going to have to play some 3. So there's maybe a little bit of overlap with Markkanen. But if you have an abundance of size, the way the league is trending right now, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, definitely not, for sure. And the Jazz have that. And with Ace Bailey, too, they have it even in abundance in the backcourt. And we'll see how he develops. You speak of Dybantsa, and, I've seen him in person. We've seen him in person. We've watched him every game. We're intimately familiar with him. And I'm sure you have a level of familiarity, too, not living too far away. And obviously games are available. And the knock on him is the pure three-point shooting. His mid-range, I just was not stunned because I saw it so much, but so impressed with his ability to get, at least at the college level, get around the free throw line and rise above. So I don't necessarily have any issue on that, but if he can hit the 3, they can crowd him and blah, 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 and it'd be harder, or play off him and crowd him as he starts to move closer to the basket. Bottom line, what's your level of concern regarding his shooting from distance?
I would say mild at most. He's a guy who has a lot of skill, and I don't think, especially in today's NBA, it's unusual for athletes to figure out how to shoot over the course of a few years. And from what I've seen, he has the kind of demeanor. He looks like a player who wants to improve, which is huge, and I think he'll figure it out, frankly. What I love about Dybantsa is I think he checks a lot of the same boxes that the other guys do without many of the drawbacks. You mentioned the big one. We're not certain that he'll become a knockdown shooter, but even if he develops into like a 35 or 36% guy, I think with the rest of his skill set, that would be good enough. I think he has a lot of the skill, like tough shot making and getting to your spot that Peterson has. I think he has a good feel for the game, like Boozer. And I think it's kind of underrated how big he is. If you've got a ball handler who can play the 2 or the 3, but is also the size of like a power forward and some small ball centers, I think that's a huge deal. So to me, he checks the most boxes. He's number 1 on my personal board, and he feels like the safest of all worlds to me. So is there some concern that he doesn't figure out how to shoot? Yeah. But that one's not really scaring me that much.
The one that scares me a lot is Peterson, because people make a lot of assumptions, but what if the truth is right in front of us, staring us in the face? The people who've known him a long time say this isn't like him. He's not like that. So if people think it's an attitude problem or it's an arrogance or there's an agent informing this is what you need to do now so you can get paid later, I mean, it's plausible. You can't rule it out because that scenario has happened as recently as Ace Bailey, and he does not appear to be who he was portrayed to be at all. It's been night and day being around him, right? But what if the truth is Peterson, playing harder against better competition, did cramp up? What if it isn't about the creatine? What if it's really like he didn't feel good because his body was hurting? Period, end of story. There's no layers to this. It is what it appears to be, because I'm watching the Western Conference Finals now, and there's two guys on each team who are out. And in the regular season, we all say they're coasting. They're saving themselves for the playoffs. They don't really care about the regular season, and we get disgusted with attitudes that clubs and players take. But now it's the biggest games. Literally, this feels like the NBA Final. Whoever wins the West should beat whoever wins the East. There's nothing to hold back, and it's four guys, two on each team, who are either out or went down late in the game or went out partway through. What if Peterson's body can't hold up? Maybe they really are doing more running, cutting, and jumping, and bodies are breaking down more often. Nobody's faking it now. This is what they're here for now. This is the best of times. That means if his body really is breaking down, he is a super risky pick.
I think that's a valid concern. I think you're almost getting into like a league-wide issue here, and I haven't been able to get to the bottom of this. For part of the season, I wondered if teams were just over-reporting calf and hamstring strains, because those specific injuries, the reporting of them just went through the roof this season, and I wondered, is this a way to get around the player participation policy? But like you said, there's really no excuse for guys to be sitting out at this point, and Fox is dealing with an ankle, so his is different. But Jalen Williams is a hamstring. Dylan Harper last night was a hamstring. So I don't know if there's anything the league can do to address this, but it is something that I've been thinking about all season, and in that environment, to be looking at a player who could potentially have cramping and muscle issues. Yeah, I understand why you have some concern there. His skill level, like I said, probably still trumps that concern for me, and I would hope, like, we'll get this guy into our program, we'll figure out what's going on, and he'll be fine. But you're right, there are players whose bodies just aren't as capable of handling the load as others. So I think it's a very valid concern to bring up.
Don't draft Brandon Roy right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wildly talented, but the body broke down.
Yeah.
You want to pick an NBA Finals real quick before we go? How's this all going to shake out? Who's going?
I think it's going to be New York and San Antonio. That's kind of what I thought coming into both of those series. I think both of those series are going to be pretty competitive. I think New York will probably get out of theirs earlier than San Antonio does, but I want to say it was like 1999 or something. Those two teams met in the finals, so it's kind of a fun rematch. And Wemby's like this emerging face of the league, and New York obviously has its fan base and its market, and I think that would be a cool, really marketable finals, and that's what I'm going with right now.
We appreciate it as always, Andy. Thanks for joining the show and talking hoops with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always love being on.
Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report. Join us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, everything you missed in the show. Next, stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeComb.
Look, I remember the early days of Shaq. If you're kids these days, you just only know Shaq from inside the NBA, or maybe the later years when he was hopping team to team and was a little out of shape and bigger than he needed to be. You go back and you watch those early 1, 2, 3 years when he was in Orlando, when he was svelte, and that dude, you watched him, you're like, he's changing the game. Shaq changed the game.
With sheer force, and you're exactly right, there was a revolution when Shaq came, no question.
And what we're seeing now is Wemby doing that. Wemby is changing the game of basketball. Not that you can replicate it, because you can't. You can't replicate Wemby, or we'd all be trying to go to the DNA, the dinosaur DNA with the old dude on the island and trying to recreate. You can't. That dude is one of one.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Slacker Rated Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Oh, PK, look up. They're running grainy old video of your Knicks over there. Oh, my gosh. Got the TV on here, and it's a New York-based show.
How would a ring make Brunson the greatest Knick ever?
And they had...
how about 20 rings, maybe?
I was going to say, I was like, what?
Come on, there's no legitimacy in that.
They had old video of somebody. I couldn't tell who it was. I saw it at the last second. It might have been Bradley walking across the court.
No, I'm going. I mean, you got to go somebody off. I'm going Frazier.
I can see why you would do that.
Is there?
Yes. Busher.
Yeah, I mean, I remember all those guys. They were my childhood heroes, and. Ewing has to be in that discussion. He didn't win one, but he had Jordan in the way. That's a funny thing. You could be the greatest thing ever, but somebody in your franchise, but you had Jordan in the way. And I mean, you can argue like
he had
Jazz.
A Game 7 against Olajuwon when Jordan was gone.
I got it.
Yeah.
Olajuwon was better at that point.
Yeah, it was.
So
and it sucks. He had a teammate drop a 2 for 19 game. A couple of shots there might have helped. But now it's his legacy.
I don't remember that. I was watching a car chase.
You do remember that. You remember it all.
That was all the slow speed Bronco down up to 405. Those were wild times for sure.
That was a wild day.
But no, I'm not putting Brunson on that level.
Undersized guy leads him to a title. I mean, it's one game in the conference finals. He's 7 wins away. It's like they have to have this discussion now because they're afraid they can't have it later. Don't save this topic. It might go away.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they barely passed the halfway point.
Right. Yeah, they've got 9 of the 16 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a miracle to get number 9.
Yeah.
But huge for them tonight. We talked about it a little bit. What will the Cavs do differently? The Thunder, they did some suspect stuff. And the Thunder did some suspect stuff in Game 1, and the Thunder changed it, okay? Don't put a little guy on a big guy and leave him there the entire game and think it's going to work. They put big guys on a big guy, and it worked. And I thought, crucially, they rotated Ihart and Holmgren so that Holmgren could use his skills, driving to the hoop, dunking, when Wemby was sitting down. I thought that balance was really good. Now, what are they going to do as far as defending Brunson? Like Wembanyama, he's probably not going to be that hot again. Even if they did the same thing, I'm not sure he could come up with 38 points again. But I don't think they'll do the same thing. They'll do something different. And if he goes for 28 instead of 38, are the Cavs going to win the game?
Well, let him do his thing. Bridges and Shaman hit just as big a bucket. And are they going to do it?
There's that too.
So I'm not a strategy guy. I'm a passion guy, energy guy. And I just like the way the Thunder approached and played the game. It was far more into it, far more aggressive, far more emotional. And
their ability to pass the ball was on full display. There were a couple possessions in there, beautiful. It was like 4 guys touched the ball in 3.5 seconds, and they got a wide open 3 and hit it.
You've got the home crowd. Play to it.
The energy, the enthusiasm, all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought Holmgren did that at a much better level.
Cleveland needs to move the ball in the fourth quarter of this game, well, in every quarter of this game, the way they were moving the ball in the middle 2 quarters of Game 1.
Oh, they panicked.
They did. And then all of a sudden there's too much dribbling, there's too much standing still, you're easier to defend. And as hot as New York was, they had to hold Cleveland to 11 points over 12 minutes to win the game.
Right.
Couple more buckets, couple more free throws. And, yeah, they took a 22-point lead down to 8, so what?
Now we get to see what you're made of.
Nice. Hit me with those cliches. Let's go. We got the split we wanted. This is what we needed. Now we're coming home, Cleveland.
Well, any team that is 1-1 and won the second game has a little bit of the momentum.
Yep.
but the momentum can shift very quickly.
Yeah, you win game 2 on the road, you feel good about it going home, and as soon as you drop game 3 at home, everything's
it's
you've
right
done
back.
a complete 360.
So that stuff it only lasts until the ball goes in the air.
Ace Bailey, all-rookie second team. Cooper Flagg, Colin Knippel, VJ Edgecombe, Dylan Harper, Cedric Coward, all on the first team.
And that's good for Ace because you look at Knippel, and Knippel is the big surprise of the draft. I mean, you got to give him credit, right? Nobody fought for sure. I can give Charlotte credit for doing that. But Flagg was supposed to do this, and so he's as advertised. Ace Bailey was a little slower developed, and that's fine. That's what once we get to October, I'm going to be saying this 1,000 times. Hey, let's just relax here on this young guy, whoever this young guy is, because you got to allow each kid to develop at his pace. Now, you got to see something. With Cody Williams, we didn't see anything. So I'm not, and this is the number 2 pick, so the expectation is going to be much higher. But for Ace Bailey, he came on and he did enough to show that he's got all sorts of promise. He was as advertised as promise goes, and it took a little bit, but he found his way, and he'll come into this next season with a whole load of confidence. You'll see it. He'll have a big summer, and how good can he be? I think we all believe he's good, but what level? What can he achieve when it's said and done? And we're still a few years away from even thinking about that. But I think I would be shocked if he didn't have a really good sophomore season.
The all-rookie first team was pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and 11. Back to the earlier conversation about the drafts don't always go in order. We'll see how this one shakes out in the long run. It's only 1 year.
But I'm fine with him.
Ace?
Fine that they drafted him.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with his development. And I have a feeling that I'll be saying the same thing this time next year. Assuming I'm alive.
Cut down on your words if you're not.
Or I'm employed. Who knows?
Aaron Rodgers is coming back for 1 year. He answered definitively, is this your last year? Yes. Praised Mike McCarthy, who there was some friction with at the end in Green Bay, but he said when Tomlin stepped down, he thought he was done, but when it was Mike McCarthy, he considered the return, and now he's back for 1 more year, and depending on bonuses, 20-ish, $25 million, something like that.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't think he had very many options, so he's got to say nice things about McCarthy now.
I agree. I think the option was when Tomlin was done, I think he might be down to 0 options.
And once McCarthy said we're good, and Pittsburgh doesn't have very many options, so why wouldn't he say that they're good or he's good with bringing back Aaron Rodgers?
Play young guys, see what you have, and set yourself up for a good draft pick. There's a chance he plays them to the middle of the league, and the run on quarterbacks, they miss out at the top of the draft.
But I don't know that I believe quarterbacks when they say they're going to retire.
He can say whatever today, but new information, change your mind. What if they go out and win 12 games?
And he plays well?
Yeah, and he plays well. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does...
Well, it's not outrageous.
It's not unbelievable. It could. I wouldn't pick it. I wouldn't predict it. But if they go 12-5 and he plays all 17 games and throws for 4,000 yards and looks great, I don't think that's how it'll play out, but yeah.
Or if he wins the Super Bowl, he'll probably retire.
How about Joe Burrow, who says he's feeling bullish about the makeup of the team, the roster, and proclaimed this the most talented roster we've had since I've been here. They've been to multiple playoffs, and they've been to a Super Bowl with him.
Well, I haven't evaluated the Bengals roster for now.
If they fix the defense, because it was atrocious.
So we'll have to see how that plays out. But, I mean, he's a player if healthy.
How many AFC teams do you already have penciled in as playoff teams?
8.
Well, since there's 7 berths, that's not true, but thank you for that. But Denver.
No, you don't. I don't know that you can have any team penciled in as a playoff berth. You have
and Kansas City missed last year, so I get it. But nonetheless, you still have your assumptions, even though you know injuries can gut anything. And
I mean, I could put out the obvious, but that doesn't mean anything.
Broncos, Bills, Chargers.
Fine, yeah. I'm not going to argue with any of those.
You could extend it to Patriots and Chiefs if you want, but I think it starts to get a little dicey. I'm pretty optimistic on New England, but I have seen.
Why wouldn't you be?
I have seen the reason I've seen teams that lose the Super Bowl crash, especially young teams that get there early. Then they right the ship, and the core goes along and has a great run. I would probably put them in before the Chiefs. Honestly, the Chiefs have a difficult schedule and a very difficult division, and they got guys coming back from injury, and it's not clear how shorthanded they'll be with Mahomes at the start of the year.
I think you got 2 teams in the East, 3 teams in the North. Let's see, at least 2, probably just 2 in the South, and 3 in the West. But they're all not going to make it.
Right. 10 teams fighting for 7 spots.
Yeah.
And the other 5 are like, well, congrats, Miami, but you're a long-term project. Raiders, you're a long-term project.
I'd go
Browns are a project.
Minimum 2 teams, probably 3 in the NFC East. I don't think, despite the record and the lousy seasons, I don't think the Giants are super far away.
Totally agree. If I were looking for
a surprise team,
if I were looking for someone to pick on a worst for first basis, I would go right to the Giants. I think they have some of the elements that we see when that happens, and it usually happens each year.
I can go all 4 teams in the North.
Any of those 4 can make it for sure.
Yeah. And I can go...
The only division of football where you can actually say that.
1 or 2. Well, it's got to be 1. So certainly I can go 2 in the South. And then again, the 3 in the West.
You got Carolina fighting Atlanta, Tampa Bay in the South, and rolling out Atlanta and New Orleans?
No, I'm not ruling out Atlanta.
Okay.
No.
That division feels wide open.
If you won 8 games, you're not that far away.
Right.
And Atlanta had a bunch of quarterback injury.
And you don't have a 14-team win parked in that division, so it's wide open. Just get to 10. And you didn't even need to get to 10 last year, but this year you might.
Right. So
you got 3, 5, 7, 11 teams in the NFC for 7 berths.
What does that mean?
Yeah. It means Minnesota's the 11th of the 7.
Get me to December,
That's your biggest,
we'll have a better idea.
Minnesota's your biggest reach there.
I mean...
Of the 11.
Maybe.
The perennial who could be in trouble is a team that you have correctly noted that I have loved for a long time. Sorry, Yak, but your Niners, worrisome. Older team, got older.
Did you see the
hard
tweet
schedule,
I just
hard
retweeted?
decision.
Did you see the tweet he just retweeted?
I did not. I was making eye contact with PK.
Grab it. Hang on.
Go ahead and look. That'll give you something to look at. You'll be excited. You're intrigued. Now you must see it. It doesn't take much to get you excited.
So this comes from Sharp Football. Warren Sharp, he's an analyst on social media.
Warren Sharp?
Yeah.
And he played defensive line?
Quote, Mac Jones had more pass attempts than Brock Purdy last year. George Kittle missed 6 games. Ricky Pearsall missed 8 games. Brandon Ayuk was out all year. Nick Bosa played just 3 games. Fred Warner went down week 5 and on and on and on. 49ers still won 12 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Kyle Shanahan is incredible.
Oh, Kyle Shanahan. So he's
watch out.
Mike Shanahan's won Super Bowls, and he's not even the best coach in his family.
Okay, well, let's stop there. Hold on. Until Junior gets a ring, he can't.
That's like Joe Garagiola played in the big leagues, and he wasn't even the best catcher on his block.
That's an awesome one.
It's good, yeah.
And I've stood in front of both of their childhood houses.
Yogi Berra, look him up, kids. All right, DJ and PK, anything else? Shohei, why do I have to put him in the lineup against the Padres? It's the first pitch of the game out for a home run.
You answered your own question.
And they win 4-0. He throws 5 shutout innings.
Yeah, I was really concentrating on that game, flicking back and forth between that and the NBA because Shohei is a must-see. He does hit the home run.
How about the double play got Tatis to hit him, too?
That was huge.
Bases loaded in the fifth.
Well, that was a play of the game, and you saw all the emotion.
Tatis isn't hitting a lick.
Yeah, because he's not on roids. I was surprised that they took him out after 5, but then I started thinking, I'm wondering if they thought, well, we're going to have him bat. And so maybe that's the way they approach it. They take him off the 6-7 inning rotation, take him out.
You're not as gassed. You don't pitch as much. You don't have to. You probably don't face anybody a third time. If you're only going 5 innings, you might be able to get through it.
And then if it's a close game, and that series, they're all close games, and then maybe we need his bat in the 7th or 8th inning or 9th inning or something. I'm wondering if there was some strategy involved there, that not just, we got to take him out now. If they actually went into that. As I was watching that, because I was a little surprised they took him out after 5, but I wonder if that was the idea going in. And he hits the home run. He's such an electric player. I had an opportunity to see him hit a home run against the Yankees when he was with the Angels. And, wow, the place just went nuts because they were down 2 and had a couple guys on, and he hits a 3-run home run.
DJ and PK, we're back with your feedback next. Stay with us. You think you're sick of them now? Oh, you were sick of them then. You know what happened 40 years ago today? What happened?
40 years ago today, it was unbelievable.
Ralph Sampson threw in that, flicked in that quick catch and shoot, launched it over Kareem, and the ball bounced around and went in. And the Rockets beat the Lakers in the Western Conference playoffs.
Yeah, I think that was only like a 2 out of 3 then.
No, that was when they beat them with Moses in 81. This was a conference final. It was 4 games to 1. But the one the Rockets also had that other one in 1980. And those were like the only 2 times Magic lost in the Western Conference playoffs in more than a decade.
But was that the season Magic was injured?
Magic hurt his knee in 80, came back for the playoffs, but wasn't 100%, and they lost the best 2 out of 3.
Oh, so that wasn't this one.
Right. The 86 one, the Lakers needed retooling. The original group was running out of gas, and they brought in Michael Thompson and somebody else and went on another run. Won their back-to-backs and went to 3 straight NBA Finals. So, yeah, but they lost like 2 playoff series in the Western Conference in a decade. It was crazy. Their dominance is overwhelming. So 40 years ago today, the Rockets got that win. Time for your feedback. Ace Bailey was named as all-rookie second team. Is that good enough? Gary, that's not quite our expectations! ! Gary wants more.
Well, as a kid, yes, that's good enough.
Scott says he struggled early with health but came on strong. It seems about right.
I agree.
And Michael says sounds about right. Brian, yes, if he would have popped sooner, he would have been first team. He came on late and got progressively better. Good for Ace.
There's nothing that he lost or didn't gain or would have gained by being first team or second team. I don't even think it's a big deal to win Rookie of the Year.
That still becomes a footnote. What do you do after that?
Right. He showed enough promise to think you got a player, and that's what you want.
Tyler says, I think with how they used him this year, he didn't really have a chance for first team. It'll be interesting to see what he becomes next year when we are actually trying to win.
Well, that's what's going to be so cool, man, because now, in a sense, everybody's going into the season with a clean slate. Now, there are reps. There's no doubt about it. But this group together has literally won nothing. And now you're not playing favorites. I don't know that I have any deference to any of them. And if Keontae shows, hey, no, I'm the man, okay, I don't care. Just win the game. And maybe it's such that the team is that the strength will be in the diversity of the high level of talent that all these guys have, so there won't be a specifically defined man. And maybe, as Locke says, we get to February, and there is. We shall see. I think that if there is, I think his point being halfway through the season probably is the time that comes to pass. This is going to be so fascinating to see how this develops.
Should the Jazz give Cam Boozer a serious look? James, no. Jim, no. Kelly, absolutely not.
Why?
They like AJ and Peterson. Jason, AJ or Peterson, whoever's still there, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Troy, yeah, he might be the best player to match up against Wemby. Get him.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
No, he's not. No.
Because he'll stand on the perimeter and pull Wemby away from the hoop is the point.
Wemby can cover everything. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you got to guard Wemby.
Oh,
no, he's not
that.
Gonna,
That's what Kessler's here for. Booze is like, Walker, that's your guy. Go get him.
Oh, maybe they find some type of switch if he's out on the perimeter versus down low.
Rick says, got to be AJ or Boozer. Peterson's a sizable risk. There's too many red flags.
are there red flags, man?
That is the question, right?
And maybe you'll be glad that there were red flags because that allowed you to get Ace Bailey, and that worked, as opposed to Peterson and Dybantsa, and there are some red flags. So I don't want to say you luck into Peterson, but because he's got these issues, you end up taking him, and then he blows up, and he's friggin' Clyde Drexler.
Scotty G and the coach Tim Lacombe next, right here on The Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number. To a good life sleep.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.